Hey guys, Socket here, and today we're joined by Karv, Octavian, and Nugi. Rise is definitely not asleep right now, and we're going to be breaking down all of the news announcements we've had, mostly Atlas discussion, since we've got Octavian and Karv here. I know they're going to talk about it for hours, and we're doing a bit of predicting the meta. Also, just to anyone who catches this later, this is recorded before the patch notes were published. This makes it more fun, because we actually need to predict things, rather than just read, oh, Arc did or didn't get nerfed. Everyone's playing that. So yes. Before we get into that kind of thing, though, what has everyone been doing to keep themselves sane while waiting for Betrayal League to start up? What about you, Octavian?
I actually Delve had the longest player retention for me specifically as a player out of any league, so I was playing that for up until like maybe the last week and a half. At that point, though, I had accomplished pretty much everything I had set out to do. I hit level 100 and reached Delve 1000 and hit every goal I wanted to. So I started playing some Warframe because they've got a ton of updates, and it's been kind of fun. But I am entirely lost in that game, and it feels sort of like starting Path of Exile, and it's actually kind of fun to go back to that feeling, because I've put 7,000 hours into this game now, just to jump into another whole, I don't know, sphere that I know nothing about. It's a bit enjoyable.
So, I've never actually tried Warframe. If you had to sell it to me in like a sentence.
For anybody else, I would go off into a sales pitch, but Tarke, probably don't. If you have problems with Magma Orb, Warframe is going to melt your eyeballs out of their sockets.
Okay.
That game is incredibly loud and busy and colorful, and just it's hard for me to keep track of, and I find Magma Orb pretty tame.
That's fair.
Is it though? I don't know if it's that bad.
From
It's not
my
like
experience,
that flashy.
like,
I mean, sure there are like effects.
maybe I just have the lens
Going
flares
on.
turned up too much. Maybe I needed to say, because there's just bright lights and shiny colors everywhere, and I'm just in a perpetual state of being dazzled.
Okay.
Have you played other games like that? Is that maybe like because the genre's new to you as well, or?
Possibly. I don't play a lot of third-person camera games, so maybe I'm just bad at, I don't know, having spatial awareness in that kind of camera setting.
That's fair. What have you been up to, Nugi?
I've been playing Korean MOBAs. Played that for a few weeks. That was interesting. Having to read everything in Korean and use capture to text and all sorts of guide. Played Lost Ark. For those who don't know, it's actually really good. Definitely not an ARPG. It's more so on an MMO. There's ARPG elements in there, but it's good. Then I was like, this weekend I didn't really know what to do, so I was like, I felt behind in everything. Decided, okay, I'll just play one game of Dota. I'll do some stuff, be productive. So after 30 games of Dota, it was Sunday, and now we're here.
So basically the normal then. How about you, Carv?
Well, making unnecessarily long videos of every single news post that we have had in the last week or something. That helps me keep sane, just talking random shit about PoE. And then playing Darkest Dungeon. It's a pretty brutal game with RNG sometimes.
How far are you? Are you playing? What difficulty are you playing on?
The medium is Darkest, I think it's called. There's three difficulties.
Oh right, yeah. So it's I believe that it's as hard as the Darkest Dungeon or whatever, the medium one, but it doesn't have a time limit. That's the difference. So there's a time limit if you play on the hardest one. Otherwise,
I don't think there's a time limit, but there's if I postpone a fight, then I get the reinforcements and all that shit.
Yeah.
Happened a couple times to me already. But yeah, I went to level 5 heroes, and then I realized, because I didn't read up wikis, or I didn't really I was trying to make some of the blind run.
Didn't theorycraft.
Yeah, so I didn't know about the antiquarian, just making the MF.
Oh,
so then I just went back to MFing all the stuff so I can upgrade all the towns, and I'm now getting closer to going for the Darkest Dungeon.
Nice. That place is fun, by the way.
Yeah, I can imagine there's been pretty interesting fights so far. Like the full darkness zone where you just like lit the whatever the orb, and then you go into full darkness and it just like every single turn they get like more damage and it's like, oh my god, everything is so stressed out.
Do you
Like
have
hero.
do you have all the expansions?
No, I don't have any of those.
Oh, okay. You should definitely get the one with the blood and all that. That one's cool.
I've had a very exciting week of sleeping. I've literally
Nice.
just slept. It's been great. So, one thing I did also want to ask before we got into all the new stuff is what league is everyone planning on playing in 3.5? Because I'm going private leagues right off the bat. Is there anyone else doing private league stuff?
Yes.
Ooh, what are you doing?
Oh, well, hopefully just a group fun. I don't know how many people it's going to be, but basically it's just the same exact league, but a private league.
Are you doing a hardcore or softcore?
Oh, hardcore.
Because yeah, I'm doing softcore haste. I feel hasted is the most fun mod because you actually feel it. Like people who mess around with like melted damage is you just get one shot slightly more sometimes. So we're doing hasted and reduced resist, so like the gearing progression is a bit tighter. Because the last time we did white items only, which was really fun. But if anyone's ever played Delve and you're like, oh, this rare drops with a special mod in it, yeah, you just like miss out half the items. So we're not doing that again.
Haste is actually legit the best mod because it makes stupid map bosses like Desert Springs faster in the in the mid phase or whatever where you just
skips
like
its
run
own
into the end.
phases.
Yeah, it makes them faster.
Yeah.
Oh.
Buffed phase
kinda
bosses, easy.
Yeah,
phase.
that's why you always like put the divine vessel on it because it gives boss speed. So then you have the haste boss speed, and then you roll frenzy charges and fleet. So then it's like actually a fast map boss to do.
I thought the
Easy.
only reason you did that was because you're only gonna do it once.
I mean, it's the new like tier 15 now. Like we might end up be like living in fucking Desert Springs, which could be really sad. But I know. Before we get into that Atlas stuff, are you two doing any private league stuff? Or are you just being boring and playing trade leagues?
I mean, a large part of what drew me into Path of Exile over a lot of the competition, like Grim Dawn and Torchlight and Diablo 3, is that it has this larger economy to it and a larger player base to interact with. It makes it feel like, to me at least, it makes it feel like what I'm farming is more impactful because I'm able to trade it for what I need eventually, rather than just having to wait on the right thing to drop. That's not to say I haven't enjoyed Solo Self-Out. I've played it a few times. It's a nice change of pace, but it's not really the kind of gameplay I'd want to go to eventually, like permanently. I like having a larger economy to interact with. It's fun. So I'm probably not going to be doing much in the way of private leagues now.
See, I think that's kind of why people like me and Karv, who've been playing a lot of SSF recently, I mean, Karv's had a lot more SSF than I can, they kind of like it because it's like, Trade League is a little too, like, just shit everywhere, and this is like, you still have to work a little bit for the right items, but you can get them, you know.
It's a nice middle ground.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm really glad it's in the game. I'm never opposed to options and play styles. I just don't think it's quite for me. It's also got arguably a downside as far as being a streamer goes, where if you're playing in a 100-person league, it can sometimes be a little bit alienating to portions of your audience. I've gotten that feedback where people are not going to want to tune in and watch you playing in a small private league that they're not, a part of and that they can't feel connected to in some way. So I don't know. I think it's perfectly fine. I'm very happy that the game mode is in the game, and I have nothing against private leagues. I'm probably just not going to be participating in one.
The actual worst streamer quality of life, if they don't fix it, and I spoke to Bex, and apparently they will, anyone who's like a starter private league themselves, only the owner of the private league can accept fucking invites. So when I was doing my private league, I only had 600 people in my league, but every 5 minutes that I'm mapping whatever, Tarke, can you accept my invite? And I've got to go to this page, refresh the page. The page takes like 15 seconds, literally. I like recorded a GIF and sent it to them, like, you need to fix this. And apparently that will get better, but it's like, they deem it like unacceptable, so it should hopefully improve. And hopefully we will get a auto-accept thing already fixed. I mean, I had it pretty bad the other day.
I think that is the last patch. Like the literal last patch. That
the one which happened like yesterday or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't done it since then. But
Yeah, back to what Octavian said about the alienating viewers. I guess am I a snowflake, but I'm basically just playing the game for myself, and I just hit the stream button, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Again,
I don't really bother that, like, think too deep into that myself.
and that's fine. There's no issue there. Again, I don't like. I'm the last person who's going to want to champion a specific way of playing Path of Exile as being the correct way of playing Path of Exile. There isn't a correct way of playing Path of Exile. There's however the fuck you want to play it to have a good time. But I personally just don't want to play a smaller group experience or, a solo self-found experience as my core way of playing Path of Exile. I might do it now and again, but I like having a very large economy to interact with.
for the record, it's not fixed. I just actually loaded my private league, and it took the entire time that you two were talking. So it still takes ages to load, sadly. What about you,
I
Nugi?
don't know what I'm gonna play.
The fix what
I
we
don't
were
know.
referring was the other than the owner can accept invites. And I remember there was some mention about the loading time as well. I don't remember exactly. There might have been, or might not. But I think they're definitely gonna look into it at some point, hopefully soon.
But yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about maybe I do solo self-found. I don't know if I want to do a private league off the bat. I don't know. Because it's like you could mess yourself up with like wanting to do the masters, and there could be a bit of a balance here and there. I would rather just like see like what is the intended way this is gonna feel like this is gonna be. Like what is the game actually supposed to feel like in the new league? And then we can always add to that with our own little fixes here and there, and making it a little bit harder, and do some leagues later on. Also, I heard that Camel is going to do another race, like some late December or something, or at least they're planning to. So I mean, there's like so many opportunities of doing your own customized experience that I don't really want to do it straight off.
Yeah, the private race thing was actually really fun. Karv, you were the only one who raced in it at this lot, right? You didn't race, did you,
Fun.
Nick?
I
No,
wasn't
I
there.
didn't. I was in that Dota mode for the weekend.
I actually had a lot of fun. I casted the first 5 or 6 hours or something. And that was actually a really awkward thing to cast, because it was like 50 people racing in it. So I had me and my friend Karv, and we were like swapping between different points of view and cutting people in and out of who we were watching. But because it was a race to 90, and we knew that we weren't going to cast the entire thing, we were like, well, let's just cast until Act 10 Katava. And then it's like, hang on, people get to like Blood Aqueducts and then stop and farm for 30 minutes. Then some people go to do like a Merc Lab and stuff. So it was like Dead and Doom started progressing, and everyone else just farming Blood Aqueducts, and we're like, well, guess he's gonna get it first then. It's just like fair. So there was this awkward like 40 minutes of just like floating at the end. But anyway, to get into the actual Betrayal news, since people are gagging for it, let's start with Atlas, and I'm sure this will be a very quick discussion. Any Atlas experts who want to give their opinions on the upcoming changes and what strategies you think people might start using?
That was a pretty loaded question.
Lots to unpack there.
Where do you want to start?
Okay, the initial like shuffling of the tiers. Let's start with that.
Well, I like they're changing things around. That's like the second time they're changing the Atlas now. And in the latest Baeclast, Jonathan said that they have like a system right now. So this might actually be a more common thing now to happen. I just wonder how it's gonna, like, how often they're gonna do it. But I personally like it. Every time they do this, I can spend like multiple hours just like looking at the picture and like figuring out stuff. I love that.
Yeah, I'm really happy that there is a reshuffle, and that's presumably going to be a regular thing. On a minor note, I'm also quite happy that all the red maps are now connected to each other within the inner circle of the Atlas. It helps a few things. Like it helps with spawning maybe your first red Atlas or red Elder to get 15 memory fragments. You don't have to like jump off into yellow maps to get them around the corner and do awkward crap like that. And it helps with like red map completion as well, at least for people who are maybe progressing their atlas a little bit too hastily. What are you guys' opinions?
So you want to have a screenshot real quick of the
Yeah,
actual atlas?
I'll link it to you.
Yeah, I can say in mod. So, for the first red elder spawn, I don't think it actually ends up making that much of a difference, because if you have red maps influence, the chance that the elder goes there is pretty damn high.
Mhm.
From my testing, like all the runs I've done, it's like incredibly high chance. Even if you have like 3 maps, like 3 red maps, the chance it going there is so high. And like, while I like it, there's like one thing that kind of boggles my mind a bit with the T12s connecting, is that now you can't use the red quadrants as like corners anymore for influence that easily, because now you have the
Yeah.
connection from T12, so you can only have like what 15, 14, 13s, and from 12s it already spreads to the different quadrants.
One thing I was curious about, and you might have different opinions on this, since we like the idea of them reshuffling, what is like the right time? Because if they change the atlas every league, then people might feel lost. Is it like every other league? Like, what's the time frame, do you think, for reshuffles?
I think every other league is good, because you'll have like the natural, everyone needs to figure everything out, and then the league after is like, oh, okay, we know what we're gonna do, and everyone feels like comfortable. It's like, okay, and then we can expect, okay, in the next league, okay, need to figure things out again. So like, just to have everyone not, I think it's a good thing to not have the players feel like they missed out on an opportunity. So they'll always have a league to, you know, get that experience of making it the right way of doing it. So I think like every other league would be good.
Yeah, and I think it would be like, isn't like the how they're playing the leagues is we have the league, and then the next is like an expansion, then we have a league and kind of like an expansion again, like a minor one. So having
Yeah.
between the minor expansions, I guess that will give more, I guess, more content for the non-expansion leagues. I think that would be nice.
Also, you want to like swap it around, not have the reshuffle at the expansion, but have it in between.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because usually
I
expansions
that.
give so much other shit. So
Mm.
I don't think we need that on top of it.
That's a bit much, yeah. I could agree with that. I do like that they've put. It seems that they've designed a lot more clusters with the idea in mind that here's a good spot, here's a good spot, here's a good spot to set up like shape maps and sextant strats and all that. It seems like there's more thought to it this time, rather than just making a pretty atlas.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does seem to be a bit more intentional. The not really downside, but the secondary effect of that though is that there are some maps that are left kind of hung out to dry. They're not part of these clusters and just aren't very good options overall. If you look at something like Plateau or City Square, like they're just, I don't even know if there's more than one sextant that hits City Square. I think probably does, but I'm not so certain about Fields. And that hits me personally because City Square was the map I got to 100 this league in. I really like that map. But, you know, it's a trade-off, and I guess I'll take it. I had 3 leagues in a row of City Square being great. We can move on and find new homes. The thing I'm most sad about, though, the change that I'm least happy with in this atlas is where a lot of the unique maps ended up. Because already unique maps didn't really feel that worth running. This league in particular, because they didn't have Sulfite in them, but just generally they've been on the decline. And now we've got Hall of Grandmasters is a tier 8, so you're not getting like red maps returns from that, and Disfavor card is super out of meta and not worth much, so it's just not really worth farming. Obas is a tier 5. You can't get I-83 level zones from that anymore unless they screw with the eye level like they did with Parandus Manor. I don't know. It's a little disappointing to me. I want these unique maps to feel like really unique and challenging experiences at least a few times.
I mean, it's easy fix. Instead of making the level of the unique map the base, you can just have a different monster level for that.
Yeah,
That
like they
fixes
did
it
with
immediately.
Parandus.
Yeah.
But it's not been the way that they've handled in the past, so I don't think that's going to happen. There's a chance,
me neither,
and
but
I'd be very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they could make some of these maps have a higher rarity as well, and then put them at a higher tier. I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to have a tier 16 unique map. That would be
Yeah.
really cool. I guess Vol Temple sort of fills that, but
Yeah,
more would be great.
Yeah.
I think also GGG's just got a bit of a weird relationship when it comes to unique maps. Like when it came to, we had Super Encroaching Darkness for a couple of leagues, getting them all the time.
Yeah.
Then they nerfed it down. We asked Chris about it, and like, yeah, we don't like it. But he said something crazy. It was like 80% of all unique maps were coming from a div card or something. So he was like, they wanted to kill that. So I feel like they don't really know what they want to do when it comes to like how much they want people actually running them. But there are a lot of maps where it's like, I run this once and I will never touch this ever again, and that kind of sucks.
I really liked it when the uniques map had more of an upside running. Like you felt like you're getting lucky, right? You got an opportunity when you found one, especially with like Obas and the Underground River one, Care Blair or whatever it's called. I mean, there was, what was it, like T9 or 10 at one
Yeah, it
point?
was
That
really
was-
nice. The first
Yeah, it
Atlas.
was nice, right? We had too many of them, granted, but that was because of the cards. So, I mean, make it, I don't know, make it, just make it nice. At least one of them to like be like, okay, I get like a unique box with some unique maps, and there's a chance I get like that one thing to like help my Atlas progression. I think that would be nice to always like have that experience with unique maps.
I still
Yeah,
think
going
my
back-
favorite unique map at the moment is actually the one which gives the shield based on how you clear it. I think that's
Yeah,
kind of.
Mm,
I think that's the
Dolores,
direction
Dolores.
they more want to go into, because they also did the same thing with the Doriani boots, like different boots based on
Yeah,
how you
yeah.
kill it. So I feel like they want to go more in like unique rewards for unique maps kind of things.
mhm.
Yeah, going back to a bit the spreading of the maps, it definitely looks like they put a lot of thoughts into it, because they like split a lot of the good maps that you used to have in groups into like different portions of the Atlas even more now. Like you don't have like other than maybe looking at the estuary, like the T10, and then from there, everything else seems to be like really spread out. So it's really hard to like pick a place and then have like influence there and have all the good maps in there. This all also, of course, is assuming that there is no changes to density from the last.
Yeah,
week.
I think that's something that hasn't been mentioned very frequently when I've seen discussions on this topic, but I think it's a real possibility that we might see some rehashings of density in maps. Because it's a complete rework of the Atlas, and with maps in new positions, some of them are going to be less favorable for sextanting and just less favorable maps overall. So maybe they want to buff the density to compensate for that change.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
That would be very welcome, because I would love to see something like Plateau be worth running for some reason. It's not like it's an okay layout. It's pretty easy to follow, but it's not got like good diff cards. It's not in a good spot in the Atlas. It doesn't have good density. I want every map to at least be like an option, even if it's not a
the best
good
option.
one.
Yeah. We do know they're open to it because they've said that they've like reworked Tower, so no longer has dead ends. I'm actually really excited for that.
Huh.
Because Tower was a map that I was always like, this could be really nice if, like, it has a bunch of good div cards in it. The boss isn't that bad, it's a bit annoying. But it just always felt bad to clear because it was impossible to run it without having to do a weird loop on yourself. So by fixing all of that stuff, I'm actually really looking forward to doing some Tower runs.
And yeah, I just want to mention it for anyone who hasn't been up to date necessarily. There was a lot of talk, a lot of disappointment about the T15 maps of choice, and a lot of the T15s that they've chosen have now gotten a slight makeover, I guess, that they announced. Tower's getting a better layout. I don't know if it's going to have better density, but the better layout means the monsters are in a more linear path anyways. Desert Spring, the boss is getting what they're doing already. The Desert Spring boss has like some mini bosses and some little vases that you can break that actually have really decent drop rates compared to other stuff I've found. But now they're going to put like blue packs in there too. So it feels like you're fighting through a bunch of scorpions rather than taking a scorpion's tail out on a nice, pleasant, long walk. And Summit is getting a similar treatment, except it's lots and lots of goats between the phases rather than scorpions.
Question remains: how good is gonna be the primordial blocks in the new map?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the fact that they, in this short notice, they made the changes to that. It was like literally like within a day or something of the announcement. There was like a day in between. People were bitching for a good reason, I think, and then they came up with this. Just nice.
I think they're in general like they're reacting faster to things that are just like bad. Like they're just like objectively bad. We can like everyone can see it, and it's just instead of letting it sit, they're acting upon feedback faster. I feel this time around, so it's good. It's good. I will say though, with the tower, oh, I'm scared. Running tower at T15. That dude was already scary, and now you want to do it six levels higher? You crazy?
Just don't get hit, mate. If you don't get hit, it's really easy.
I'm
That's
more
what I
scared
do. Just don't get hit, mate.
Stop it.
I'm not scared of tower because unless you have like super speed Brutus, it's pretty easy to dodge the slams if you're like close to him. But then we have the summit, which is just like no matter what the guy does, it just like tears you apart. No matter what skill he uses, you just die. It's
It's
like
gonna be
crazy.
fun.
Even as a T12.
It's good though. I like it.
I'm excited. It's gonna be a good time.
So for the real meat and potatoes, shape strat or full completion or both? Ooh.
I think what I'm going to be going for is because, like Karv said, it's the way they've designed the atlas with the groupings and the clustering. I don't know if this was your intent when you mentioned it, but basically it's a lot harder to find one spot on the atlas where you have a bunch of different good maps next to each other. So what I'm going to do is a strategy that focuses on sustaining a single map, which is having full completion except for one Elder T16 map, and just focus in on that one good map that I can find somewhere in a corner. Like Armory looks pretty good, or Toxic Sewer, I believe, does get hit by pretty much all the Sexton spots around it, just barely. So Toxic Sewer seems like a very good candidate as well. Of course, this is assuming no density changes. That's going to be the big hitch. Like, we can't really know until we play through the Atlas, but they haven't announced anything specifically on that front, so we can only work with the information we have.
I really hope that they do a lot of density changes. Just so we have to like discover what is good and bad, right? Because if everything is just as it is right now, it's too easy to figure out the Atlas if we don't actually have to go in and explore and try some things out. Because people spend like hours of like counting mobs with the rampage buff and everything to figure it out, right? It's not always apparent because a layout that makes monster very clustered makes it feel like there's more monsters in there because like you're blowing up big packs, but like larger maps could actually have more monsters, but it's just you don't see it because they're like spread out, right? And then they maybe have a good section spot and like a ton of spawns will spawn when you sexton it and all that. So there's like I hope to I hope that they're gonna just overall just do a big rebalance on that.
I mean, even just moving div cards would be enough to completely throw everything in the air.
I mean, they're doing that already.
Grotto, actually, on the topic of like larger maps being compared to smaller ones, is probably one of the best candidates for that. If the density on Grotto goes up, it's going to be one of the better maps on the Atlas, in my opinion, because it is absolutely massive in terms of actual map size. There's a few other candidates for that, but they need a lot more help. Like Grotto has decent density right now. I find that like Coral Ruins and Geo are both also freaking huge, but they're just kind of terrible maps otherwise.
Yeah, Coral Ruins is fucking dead. I hate running that map whenever I have to, like a Shaper Stronghold or something.
But there's a world where Coral Ruins could be really good if it got 5 times the current mob count.
And then remember in Bestiary, when specific monsters with specific beast mods spawned on specific maps. So I'm like thinking what like we know that they're gonna streamline it, right? But we don't know exactly how, right? We don't know if individual like beast mods are gonna be important. And Leyline looks actually pretty nice now. It's been a T10, and there used to be this one guy. I don't remember what it was, but it was very important for some.
Krashik something, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is just like a big question mark because we don't know yet how it's gonna be.
I can't remember the name of it.
Octavian spent his whole life farming
it. Yeah, exactly.
And it's
I was hoping that you would fill in because I don't remember.
God damn it! Why can't I remember the name of it? I spent like
I think it's like some Lurcher, right?
Yes, Lurcher. That's it.
Yeah, back to the Targe's question about the full completion or shaping. I think what I personally am gonna do is just to otherwise full completion, but then have like T11, 12, and maybe like 13 or 10. So then I have like I can do Uber Elder if I want to, and then if I want to just like do easy maps, then I just do those 11 to 12 or whatever person I have, because that's not gonna make it harder for me to spawn Uber Elder at all. Because all you need is like the 14 and up to do the spawns very easily.
Have we heard confirmation on whether or not master missions can spawn on maps that you don't have completed yet?
I
I don't
asked
think we
about
have.
it, and we don't know.
I don't think we have confirmation, but what we do know is that even if it spawns on a map that you don't have, but okay, let's start with Trade League, right? So if you play in Trade League, it spawns in a locked map. Like you have your shape D14 to 16 like strat, right? And it spawns in random D15 and whatever. What you can do is you just buy the map, go do the mission, and never complete it, right? But you don't have to do that, because they also said that they overwrite the mission, so they will eventually spawn somewhere else. But if you're only running T16s, you have one Elder map in your Atlas, and then you have the 4 Guardian maps, assuming they will be able to spawn there.
Yep.
The chances of it going into, I mean, they said loosely in the tier, right? They spawn loosely around the tier that you are doing, right? So I would assume they're more likely going to be spawning on those lock maps. So in that case, the full Atlas, if you want to be doing those, is probably going to be pretty nice.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking it's going to be full Atlas, because this
I hope that there's going to be like even a slight like boost in it spawning on completed maps around those tiers.
I don't think it will, just because this league...
Yeah, me neither, because they don't want the shape. They don't want to buff the shape stats. That's why I think that too. But
I spent a full week not being able to do Shape of Strongholds because they were on maps that I didn't have in SSF, and they don't despawn. And having experienced that once, I'm like, yeah, they're going to do that again. And we tried to ask specifically that question before we had Jonathan on, because we sent like a bunch of like, hey, can you answer these yes, no? And questions about like how masters will spawn, like what tiers will they be removed. Those are all the questions they didn't want to answer. So if they would despawn, I imagine they would have just said, yes, they work like this. The fact they didn't want to talk about it makes me think they probably didn't know how they wanted to handle it yet.
Maybe just want us to figure it out ourselves.
Maybe.
I mean, they have that mentality on things in general.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be too hard to find out.
No. But I mean, not knowing going in, it's still gonna be interesting if you're not.
Not giving all the candy as at once.
Yeah.
It's like go figure out yourself.
Yeah.
You know how your parents were hiding, chocolates in the Easter and all that kind of thing. Go find them.
GGG does like being overly coy about like how stuff spawns, so it could just be they don't want people like gaming the system before it's even out. So that's a possible thing.
I do think I will go with the shape strat. I did this league with the full completion. I hate it. I gotta say, not having at least 1 or 2 maps that you can consistently run. It's just so annoying. Sometimes you just want to I just want to get some quick XP, and it's just half the speed if you just want to gain some levels. It's just straight up like half the speed if you do full completion, because you're like stuck with some like crappy maps and you can't really control where you want to go. So it's either you buy maps, but you can't do that, or you have a shape strat.
That's
like
why
your options.
I'm thinking about the hybrid to kind of
you have like most of it, and then you make sure that.
Just having like even 2 tiers is like a big thing already.
Yeah.
A soft shape is what I usually call it.
I think I might do that.
I was kind of hoping I could do like full Atlas, but then maybe like only have 114 or 115. If it doesn't fuck Masters, I think that would be the nice way of doing it. But that's one thing that does really worry me about this league in general. Since we've got like Masters spawning, Shaper Strongholds, 8 Elder Shaper, I really don't want to be in a situation where I feel like I have to check my Atlas after every map I run. And I feel like there's a real risk. We might be like, gotta constantly check Atlas, see where we need to go next. I don't know.
Actually, I just thought of something. So with the shape strat, they have to actually the masters will have to spawn on tiers. Like they have to it can't just spawn on the maps you have completed. Because if you run shape strat, right, you just end up with it on the same tier all the time, being on the same map. So then you could just like run 2 shaped, just get them out of the way, and then the third one spawns one, right? You can just kind of like there's boss, and then you have it, you find it. Like you could generate so many. Like think about it.
Maps basically.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Just beeline to the boss, kill him, done. Beeline to the boss, kill him, done. You do that in like 20 seconds in some maps, right? Like super fast.
That actually might be something that becomes fairly common, even disregarding the shape strategy.
Yeah.
Getting maps that are really easy to just complete and cycling your Atlas for masters. Particularly maybe if you're like trying to compete on the Delve ladder and you want to spawn Nico as often as possible to get fuel.
Yeah, like how we saw with Armory and people like just zoning and getting themselves fight leaving. I could see a few strats where like you find a linear enough map which like you can reliably like get the good thing, then just peace out. Yeah.
Return of Strand.
Yeah, if it's just a chance, if it's always just, I mean, they've already said like what 33% chance of a master when you open a map, right? Yeah. And then on top of that, you get the bonus daily stuff by just completing a lot. So yeah, of course, just from that, like just doing maps fast is gonna give us a lot of masters, right?
Yeah. So if they allow that for shaped, it's gonna be like ridiculously fast.
Yeah. The thing I'm wondering is what is the tier of the master spawning based on? Is it based on the base map or the map after it's shaped? Because there's 2 different things when it comes to like when it comes to spawning Elder Influence, that's based on the map that is on your Atlas, right? So if you have a T16 channel, for example, you can run T1 channels, and the Elder Influence is going to spawn on the T6, like around the T16s. And then when Elder occupies a map, it's always based on the base map, for example. So I wonder what's going to be is it going to be based? So if I'm running shape T15, so a T10 map base, is it going to be spawning on T10s or in T15s? It's just, we don't really know that yet, right?
I mean, if you're running like a T15 shape strat, right, it would be nice if it's on the 10s because you complete all the 10s.
Yeah, it would be.
And then you can just like,
yeah, that's why it's like a question mark. We don't really know.
Yeah.
The other
I would expect it to spawn on the tier of the map that you're doing.
Yeah, I think
I would too.
If anything, I would imagine it works like Elder, where it looks at your Atlas to see what the tier of the map is.
That makes sense.
Which that means that if we keep these same Zana mods going into the next league, or at least the Zana mods that allow you to turn a 10 into a 15 when you put it in your map device, the 10 that you're putting in your map device is a 10 on your Atlas. So in that situation, Elder thinks it's a T10, not a 15. And so Masters might think it's a T10, not a 15.
One thing that we haven't talked about, and we can't really talk about knowing that much, is how Scarabs will mess with this whole thing. Because if Scarabs are super common and we can like force masters that way, then maybe we don't need to do these weird strats.
You can think critically about it a little bit, because Scarabs we know are sourced from syndicates.
Yeah.
They're sourced from, like, you get specific Scarabs by putting specific syndicate members in specific places on your chart and then doing the final boss. I forget what it's called. So what would lead to more syndicates per hour? That's running more
really
zones, finding more
maps,
things.
Yeah.
So again, if the strategy to spawn masters quickly is open zone, kill boss, leave, maybe that strategy evolves to open zone, find syndicate event, do that, then kill boss, then leave. Farm your syndicate as quickly as possible to farm Scarabs, and at the same time farm masters.
I was thinking that this might be a Tarke Farms tidal hour for 3 days to fuck around with the League Mechanic League. I do that whenever we have a league like this. Like, I did it with Prentice, I did it with Bestray. I like it when we have that thing where, like, you go into random leveling zones to cheese it. Quarry was too extreme, because that was, like, fucking mind-numbing. You weren't even killing monsters. But, I don't know, I'm kind of hyped to maybe do more weird shit like that.
I think Atlas is going to be really interesting this league, with how many things we have to interact with on the Atlas. I'm really looking forward to it.
And maybe some of these maps that I talked about earlier that were left hung out to dry, they might end up being the perfect candidates for master farming or for syndicate farming or something. There's more systems at play, and that always helps encourage diversity. I'm very happy about that. I just hope none of them are implemented in a way that just leads to degenerate gameplay. You know, like not actually playing the game, but just trying to find that one lever to click. You know, like what was it in Diablo 3 for a little bit after it came out, you went and like
Chest
broke
runs.
vases instead of
Yeah.
playing the game. I don't want that.
Yeah.
But you're saying that you don't want other people to opening maps and then you just go click the full fight? Kind of thing?
I mean, the actual delving in that is at least gameplay. That's sort of leaning into that. I mean, that actually leads into another discussion that I wanted to talk about. I brought it up when we had Jonathan on Baeclast last episode. They've confirmed that there will be prophecies affecting the new masters. And I'm very worried that that's going to lead the delve ladder to be a situation of who can buy the most Nico prophecies.
Probably.
Ah.
To the extreme, yeah, probably.
I really want them to emphasize more of like the players having control over this rather than it being like a random event and then you have to buy your way to it. I don't like that system too much. I like it better when we can control like how we end up playing the game.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now
it
we're
may
talking-
not. Go ahead, Karv.
Yeah, so now that we are talking about masters again, so what I want to know is when we spawn a master, like not the normal, the 33% chance for a master, but for the extra, the daily thing or whatever. Do you have an increased chance of spawning a master that you already don't have in your atlas? So if you always complete the Nico immediate when you get it, and then you have the other 4 in your atlas, will I now have increased chance for Nico to spawn again when a master spawns? Or it's just like random and it always overtakes the last one?
That was the
Wait, say that
first
again?
thing I thought. Basically, master blocking. So, like, if you wanted to force Nico, you would leave the other 3 always on. So, try and guarantee one spawning.
Even if it's
I
not a guarantee, but
think-
even if it's a higher chance, that's
Yeah.
already a massive.
Didn't they talk that they wanted to allow us to better control that stuff?
Didn't they also say, as we were talking about earlier, that the masters decay off, so you wouldn't be able to like leave it blocked if you have
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
because
have like
it
Einhar
will.
somewhere, eventually the Einhar despawns.
Yeah.
And well, I think if I remember correctly, so if you have let's say that we have an Einhar on a random map tier 1, and then you're running some other maps, then when an Einhar spawns, it goes away from the tier 1 and go into the new map.
Mhm.
I don't think it just like randomly goes away if you never do it, if the Einhar doesn't spawn again. I think that
So
not that it
the
makes a big
Einhar-
difference in practice, but
The Einhar only moves if Einhar respawns again somewhere
yeah,
else.
exactly.
Okay.
This is like we just don't know yet.
Yeah. We also don't know if it's like if you can leave a master there for 5 maps or 50 maps, because that also changes the system quite a lot as well.
Mhm.
But yes. One thing before we get off the Atlas talk, one thing which indirectly I think makes Atlas really interesting is the fact that they're buffing boss loot. So that might push more people into doing like more Guardian stuff, since they've said that they're going to be looking at all the Elder Shaper Guardian rewards. We've seen a few examples like buff Shaper amulets and stuff. I'm really excited to see how they handle those guys.
Buffing Dan in hardcore, since he's doing all the bosses, it's gonna make a mad money. Yeah, I like that they're making the uniques from those better. Hopefully they're gonna be good enough.
Yeah.
I look forward to the opportunity to actually
just
see
wanted
Void
to
Fletcher
use them.
like in a build.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
It's gonna. I would fucking love to be actually use the bow from Hydra for something else than MTX. I mean,
Dan mentioned like you can with the weapon swap as well, right? Because does that affect
the
bows
weapon
as
swap
well?
Yeah, but you're just gonna have like the own like skill bar set for weapons.
But weapon swapping, they'll affect bows as well, not just melee weapons, but bows. So if you do your Chinsol weapon swap, it's gonna be like much nicer. So you'll run around with the Hydra bow for the clear, because it's good for clear, and then you have the Chinsol for boss single target. Oh, it's gonna be great. What's going on?
I'm all happy with quality of life like that. It's nice.
Oh, also, one thing I thought about regarding the Atlas is that so we know we have all the spots, right, where we can we can do the sextants and the shaping and all that. Well, I feel like internally what they should have, I don't know how to like plan out how things need to be, but there should be like a checklist of what is the score we want to give different maps in terms of like what is like the threshold for a map to be acceptable in PoE, right? Let's say that they will have maps with a score of like 3 to 5, and then anything that goes below needs to be buffed a little bit, right? So it can either be sextant placing, general like map density. It could be quality of div cards. It could be bestiary monsters and all that kind of stuff. So you could have something like you could have like what's it called? What's that map? Plateau, and it spawns like the best bestiary monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also a way to do it. And
More systems at play.
Yeah.
That would be amazing, but I don't think they have anything like that.
I mean, I hope
So,
that they've thought it that
they-
far.
They might not have like a spreadsheet or something actually planned out, but I'm sure all of these factors come into play when deciding how to design a map
for
and
sure.
where the map might go.
I mean, I feel like they should have though.
I mean, that's why
A
I think
spreadsheet?
City Square is in there. In basically, it doesn't. Maybe it has like 1 or 2 sextants on top of itself. It's really hard to say. They could also be changing the range of sextants. So us like theory crafting all the sextants, but might not even make any difference if they're going to changing the radius, right? But City Square has a triple boss, has good div card, and it's extremely like easy and linear and fast map to do. So for example, like challenges. So, you know, if you have to kill bosses or completing maps with influence and all that, it's actually an insane map for completing influence because it's in the middle of 2 maps with no other connections. So just having Elder Influence on the top right corner, it's extremely easy to swap the influence on City Square because it's not connected to multiple maps.
It's not enough to make me come back to a Karv. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not, but like that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so good in like those things. It kind of would. I understand why it doesn't have like a sextant thing.
Yeah, no, it's reasonable. It was a very good flew under the radar a little bit because Underground Sea and Haunted Mansion are great. Speaking of which, those are still both in good spots.
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion is a little worse now. It's surrounded by yellow maps rather than white maps, but it's still decent. One other like specific thing I wanted to touch on. It seems like they've thrown, unless I missed one somewhere, it seems like they've thrown all of the maps that can give you doctor cards at least up to tier 10. Or into like red maps, Doctor and Fiend, I should say. So like the actual give you a headhunter sets. So maybe that means that Nurse will drop in some of the lower tier maps, so that if you want to, 3K Life MF Windripper, then you're farming for nurses because you have to farm in a tier 4 or 5 map. And if you can work on improving your build, then you can start farming for doctors, which seems like this nice little progression.
And anyone who missed it, Nurse is a new div card which gives you doctor cards, and I fucking love that, by the way. But go on, Nugi.
I have a bold prediction. I'm almost certain I'm right. Nurse is going to be 8 times more likely than the Doctor.
That's very bold of you.
One thing which I
say
like,
it's more rare.
is I've got an open div card purchase. So if we wanted to go full meme, Nurse div card, boys, eh?
What would
how
you
deep
call
are we
that?
gonna how deep are we gonna go with this? We have like the ambulance driver, we have the paramedic, we have the patient, we have the plague, whatever. Like you can go deep.
The patient is the card. That's the one. I mean, that would work as well because I'm sick as fuck. So I could have like a disabled in-game Tarke. That works. I'm into it.
I saw somebody doing the math on Reddit, and at least at the time of when they posted it, a card that gives an eighth of a nurse would still be worth like 8 or 9k per card, which is still more than like the vast majority of div cards. Like, still, it's a decently valuable card. You wouldn't be unhappy to see it.
Did you see the Reign of Chaos card for Reign of the card for Reign of Chaos?
That was great, and it had a seagull in it, and that was I liked that.
Oh no,
that was nice. But yeah, is there any more Atlas stuff? Will we get into more skill discussion?
Well, yeah, but we can keep going on. We can talk about this for hours.
Okay.
Let's go with the next.
If you want to bring us back at any point, if you have a big glowy brain, feel free. But let's get into some of the new skill gems. I think we're going to start with the most exciting of the new skill gems, Tectonic Slam. Weren't we all just blown away by that sick rework?
I'm hyped as hell, man.
I think the word you were looking for was Mechtonic Slam.
At least it still looks cool.
Yeah.
I'll give
I have
it
a
that.
35% chance to clear the screen. Feels good, man.
Like, there's the argument that the changes to Tectonic Slam are bringing the baseline hit up to an acceptable point where it's a usable skill, and then 35% of the time you get this like mega burst. But if your skill baseline is already acceptable, which read as clears a whole pack in like a hit or two, then you don't need the extra 35% AoE because you're already clearing that whole pack in a hit or two. You're probably not going to be reaching like the next pack. We're not off screening with that buff unless it's really crazy.
Do you have the numbers on the skill? Yeah,
I don't think we have.
We don't have the final numbers.
We don't have the damage.
We just have.
So I mean, if it has a
images.
crazy damage like Scourge Arrow, it's gonna be used, of course.
Yeah.
If the damage is insane, it's gonna be used, no matter how bad the AoE is.
But like, just talking about the perspective of the AoE and the changes we know about, if then it's not good enough to respectably clear without the proc, then it's going to feel horrible until it procs. Like, there's not a situation where having a 35% proc makes sense to me. Like, either it's superfluous or it makes the skill feel bad.
I'd rather have it be like, if they want to go with like the RNG system and everything, I feel like there should be more ways of us interacting with that RNG element, right? So, do we want to generate even more charges, and it just consumes all of them instead of just one? There's like one, and it just becomes this extra little like, or maybe it's like pretty big, but it's just, if there isn't any, I want them to be like, okay, then it becomes like a melee discharge. Then I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool.
No. For anyone who doesn't know, so the current Tectonic Slam is a 35% chance to consume one endurance charge for a bigger one, which does more damage. The one idea that I really liked, that someone in my chat came up with, was if it had baseline 0% chance, and then for each endurance charge you had, it gained a 10% chance to proc. So that way you'd be like, oh, how do I build the sweet spot? Do I play like a 10 endurance charge build, or is a 5 endurance charge build good enough? At what point is like investing more nodes? I like that idea a lot.
That's a lot better. Another would be it just give it every X hit.
Yeah, every third hit.
Third hit of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. But I think the chance per endurance charge is way better idea.
I think that's that, because then you can build around, like you can actually you feel like you're building the skill. There's like random chance stuff and the on kill and all these things. I hate them in PoE because you have like so little control. Like a chance to gain something on kill.
Yeah, I mean at that
the
point,
same thing just inferred to a skill now.
It's not. It's either again not useful or up all the time. The space in which there's a middle ground where it feels impactful to get the hit, but you don't need the hit, is very limited. Like, most builds are not going to be occupying that space for very long. You know, your character levels past that to the point where they either need that AoE all the time, or they've scaled enough to have it all the time, or they're not strong enough and they can only kill things with the proc, and it feels terrible.
It's even worse than that, though, because my biggest issue isn't the fact that it's just there's a chance you get a bigger hit. It actually changes, like, the damage cone of the skill, because the skill normally just hits forward, but then when you get the proc, it also does, like, sideways. So there'll be times where, like, you know how when you play Sunder, you position your character so you hit the whole pack, and that's the difference between, like, a good Sunder player and a bad Sunder player. The good Sunder player positions themselves correctly, and the bad guy just holds right-click. With this, you always just hold right-click because you might hit it sometimes, or you position correctly, and half the time you're not hitting the pack, and then it feels bad. Like, yeah.
Tarke, I think you might have missed the memo. Sunder is no longer.
we can talk about yeah, I guess
anymore.
Yeah.
It has moved on.
I think the worst thing about this skill is when you get unlucky. I mean, there's a reason why people want, like on crit builds, we want 100% crit chance or close to it. Yeah, because not critting twice in a row sucks. With 35% chance, you could not hit it like 10 times in a row and it doesn't proc.
Imagine playing like a not champion, so a build that actually has to deal with accuracy, that's playing Tectonic Slam and is a crit build. Like sometimes you're going to whiff twice in a row. Sometimes you're going to proc your 35% chance, but you didn't actually hit because of an accuracy
I didn't
roll.
even think of that. That is
Sometimes it's going to
hilarious.
proc and then not crit. It's going to have these massive ups and downs in terms of how it feels to play, and it's not going to feel freaking consistent at all. And that's a very reasonable build to put together. Like crit, Juggernaut, Tectonic Slam. It's thematic. It seems like the right way to take it, but it's going to feel terrible sometimes.
Yeah, that reminds me of the. I don't know. I think it was some Baeclast in the past where we're talking about AoE with like spells and the elementalist, like where you have the rotating, where you get the AoE. It feels like amazing when you have it, and then when you don't have it, it's like, well, what? It's like useless. And if you don't have enough AoE without it, it's completely dog shit. And if you have enough AoE without it, then it's just like, oh, what does this do anymore?
Can we transition from this point over into banners? Because I think it actually is somewhat relevant. Banners are a very powerful buff that you control when it procs.
Yeah.
Like you have this reservation that gives you a passive buff as you're going, and then you can choose when to plant your banner and get the bigger buff out of it. And that is a much better way to design this sort of thing.
Yep.
And it frustrates me because they have this better design. It seems like they just maybe there wasn't a lot of time for Tech Slam. Maybe it should have just been left, to gather more cobwebs for another league before they decided to try and come back to it.
It definitely feels tacked on. Like they even said in their developer manifesto, they're like, we're trying to build around archetypes. And then it's like Tectonic Slam's just thrown in there randomly. Like there's no reason, especially in the patch where you make certain changes to melee weapons, now isn't really the time to be looking at buffing Tectonic Slam. But
it's always a time to buff Tectonic Slam and every other melee skill. Let's be real here.
That's true. That's true.
That's never the wrong time.
True.
And it is a buff. Like it's better than it was before, I'd say. It's just kind of underwhelming still.
Yeah. Banners, one thing which people aren't talking about with banners, which I think is really cool, is you can use one of the banners to easily get Fortify on bow and one builds. Because one of them gives you Fortify when you activate it, and I think that's sick.
Have you seen the duration of the Fortify?
I mean, it's not that great, but I'm sure there'll be some way to scale it, and there might be like some, I don't know, Karv, can you imagine a situation where someone maybe want to like, I don't know, self-cast temp chains or some shit, I don't know.
I've not actually seen the duration. What is the duration on the Fortify?
I mean, he had like a full, 40 stack or whatever. I don't know if that's a lot, but I mean, he was charging it for a long time, and it was 3 seconds.
So not great then.
I mean, we have the weapon slots now, so it's even easier to weapon swap into a Vigilant Strike, and there you go. You have your, 12, 20. I don't even remember how long Vigilant Strike is anymore.
So I
30
think it's like
seconds?
that's with the threshold tool.
So
it's really long. Yeah, it's really
45.
Really long.
Oh, crap. Yeah, I think I'll do that instead. If the Fortify is what I'm looking for, that's what you want to do.
I don't know. I think that's fair. I just think it's a nice, like, I'm under the assumption you'll be able to make it last probably like 6 to 10 fully leveled. At that point,
make it work consistently.
Yeah, because it's like, when are you going to use it? Like, you're going to use it on the boss. Like, when are you going to need Fortify? Probably the boss. Like, if you're playing a bow build and you're getting hit regularly while mapping, then you're probably doing something wrong, right? You only really get hit and take damage when you're doing the scary stuff, and you're going to place the banner when you're doing the scary stuff. So, I don't know. I think it's got kind of nice synergy in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to push, like, this Fizz bow archetype with all the buffs they've done to Fizz crafting. So if they nerf like Elder Shaper bows and Fizz bows become a thing, you're going to want to use it anyway for Impale. So then getting Fortify onto, I don't know, I could maybe see it being a thing.
I was thinking about that actually, with the Impale, right? And doing more physical damage. Won't that increase the bleed? Would that be better for bleed? How will that work?
But the Impale is just damage of it doesn't do anything with bleed. It's just a damage to the target. It's not like a increased damage take. Okay. Like that. Okay. It's just you store a hit on a enemy.
Yeah.
Imagine throwing spike. Imagine throwing like darts to an enemy, and then
Yeah,
you
no, I get it,
hit
I
the
get it.
enemy with a like a shovel into the dart, it takes some extra damage because
But it's like
Think
more
it like
physical
that.
damage though, right? So if you're going full physical damage and you add the bleed and you add the things and you add the more things, and then you can actually do like a proper physical damage build with everything stacked together. Maybe. I mean, there's hope.
On the topic
yeah,
of
especially when
bleed,
the stat stickiness kind of so you can do now that you can do the pure physical now and not feel completely bad because the other option is kind of
on the
Yeah.
topic of bleed, this is a little bit of an aside, but if anyone is watching who has power over this sort of thing, please remove the chaos conversion from Scourge Arrow, because you can't do a bleed build with it right now, and it's got 150% more damage with ailments per stage, and I really want to do a bleed build with it, but you convert 60% of your fizz to chaos, so you just can't. And
And while we
it
are at
doesn't
that-
help anything. Like, poison can still work off fizz damage. I don't see why it needs the chaos conversion aside from thematic reasons, and people are just building it LE stacking anyway.
That would actually make a good threshold jaw. A jaw which made it not convert and go on Karv.
And while we are at that, can we also remove the physical portion from the bonuses from dual wielding?
Yeah.
Because I would like to do a dual wielding elemental attack build and get the damage bonus. Because right now it's 20% more physical attack damage. Just remove the physical from it, okay? And I'm happy.
Dual wielding?
You got a Bestials a year ago. You're
Stat
okay.
sticks? Dual wielding?
Hey, Ellie Cleave. This might be the return of the glorious Ellie Cleave.
You know what?
Still exists.
The first demi I ever won was playing a Ellie Cleave as a Shadow. Back when Shadow was playing Fire Trap and Poison Arrow. Yeah. And I had to be the first in the whole damn race to get the demi. Because I have an ASTF man like right on my back.
Wasn't the meta back then to actually do Fizz Cleave on Shadow though? Wasn't Fizz Cleave
Wait,
Shadow
who?
meta?
No, it was the meta was Poison Arrow Fire Trap for
Yeah, then they nerfed
Shadow.
it.
This is like the season.
Yeah,
one.
I know. Like we're talking super niche like racing, but
Yeah,
wasn't the whole
yeah.
wasn't the only times that you would play Shadow Cleave over Templar Cleave was to go Fizz on Shadow, wasn't it?
Nobody really played.
No,
Shadow
this is terrible. There was
Cleave,
like there was
yeah.
only one guy who did it. Who was the guy who did evasion builds? The first guy to ever do evasion builds? DevMoon? He was the only one who did like whirling blades and stuff. He was like ahead of the meta when it comes to like movement skills. He was whirling blading back in like 2012.
I started in warbands, so I feel a little out of my depth. With
To
the
bring
season
it
one
to bring
racing
it back
talk.
though to something that you can relate to, banners I think are going to be a really sick buff to Herald of Agony. It's going to be really nice for summoners.
Yeah.
I think there is a sick buff for everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, anything
But
which
yeah,
does
no,
space
I
damage.
It's
agree.
all about like consistency, right?
Yeah.
Like how consistent can you make it?
And,
Imagine popping the banner on the ground so you can you remove the mana reservation, and then for that fight you pop in like an extra herald or something, and you have the banner going now. What happens when the duration when the banner is on the ground goes off? Do you just not get it back anymore because now you have another reservation?
I assume it just disappears and you've got to press it again to resummon it.
Yeah, probably.
Although it would probably feel better if your character just automatically picked it up again, just like from a gameplay point of view.
Yeah, but what happens when you have the other? Would allow you to have it when you have banner on the ground?
You cut out there, sorry, dude.
Also, would it just like when you have the banner on the ground, even it like it no longer has the mana reservation when it's on the ground, right?
Yeah.
Would it still like not allow you to reserve mana over the banner that will eventually come back to
You'll be able to reserve it. I think people are kind of overhyping the reservation though, because it looked like 15% in the trailers, and he had it with links on it. So I assume without any links, it's probably a 5 or 10%, which is fine.
I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. I think it's gonna be just fine.
It's gonna be right.
I'm just wondering what the mechanic here is.
So, like, what you're saying is if it auto reserves back to your bar, you're doing a boss fight, you drop your banner, you fight the boss, and when the banner would auto reserve back, you're out of mana and then it can't? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, would it like just not?
Because I think the simplest
longer have a
solution
button,
just having to manually recast it.
Yeah.
How about having auto recasting on some things?
As like an option. That would be cool, but I don't think they'd ever do it.
I mean, for the banners at least. I mean, why not?
Because it's GGG. Like, I'd rather have... If we're making that level of quality of life, give me fucking more keybinds. Like, dude, I want additional keybinds before I start getting auto-cast shit.
Think, honestly, do you not think that they're going to do that at some point? I mean, have you seen all the amount of things they're trying to be, like, they've tried to address recently? I feel like it's like they're constantly just throwing out, like, quality of life things.
I feel like that's the complete...
swap and the vendor crap, and, like, I mean, like...
But they don't want to remove the actual buttons you press, though, because that's why they made instant cast, and that's why they took Warcries off cast and damage taken. Because it was like, fuck, people are pressing too many buttons, let's give people ways to automate stuff. Then they went, shit, people are automating everything, we need to start removing that. So if we can start automating everything again, then like...
No, but you don't do it for everything.
Well, no, I'm not saying like we do it for main skill and shield charge and everything, but if you start putting on like utility setups, that's pretty OP.
I mean, it's like you click your herald, you don't have to like respawn it with a click.
Okay, but like, so this is the thing. Like, if you're playing a banner build, realistically, you enter the map, you press banner once, you clear the entire map. Maybe you drop it if you get like a scary like red beast or something drop, and then you equip it again, and then you drop again at the boss. You're gonna realistically press it like twice during a whole map.
But most people probably press it then once. You left your banner behind. It doesn't make any sense.
Like, it would be...
Say you forget about it, do you have to go back and pick it up?
No, you just press the button. You just press the button.
I think it just summons a new one for you. Unless they're talking thematically
ridiculous.
Here. In which case, every Path of Exile character is just an expert seamstress at this point and can whip up a banner on the fly. That's how it works. If we're talking thematically, you can leave them behind. You got plenty of materials.
Okay, the real question here is the reason why we can't get more skill binds because it would be really hard to implement for like Xbox and PlayStation 4.
Project PT is that year. I don't think it'd be that difficult. It would be like a pain, but you know. Anyway, since we're getting really off topic, we touched a little bit on Impale. What do you guys think of the actual Impale skills? I'm kind of mutting on them just because they looked pretty...
Hard to say, we don't have damage numbers. If they have crazy damage, maybe we're gonna use them. If they don't have crazy damage and they look meh and they play like meh, then people are not gonna use them.
That's exactly the problem with Toxic Rain as well. It looks terrible. Then you looked at the damage. Oh, it's actually really good.
And Scourge Arrow.
Yeah, I said with Scourge Arrow, like, this looks really slow, but if it does insane damage, it will see play. And then it did insane damage and it saw play. And everyone's like, Tarke, you said it'd be shit. I was like, yeah, I said if it did damage, it would be good. No, you said it was shit.
To be fair, though, we did just see already a significant nerf to how the Lancing Steel, and I can never remember the name of the other one, would be used, in that they were weapon-specific fizz skills, so everyone was shouting more stat sticks for these, and now stat sticks are no longer really attack build viable.
Actually, though, I don't remember what... I always forget which is the skill, but the other skill, the first one, like when it's dual-wielding axes, it's actually swinging both weapons when it does that in the animation in the video, which would imply that it's kind of like cleave, which would mean that you wouldn't be able to use it with a stat stick to begin with. But again, they could have already done, this because of the mechanical change, right? But what I want to know, I guess this is kind of, going to a different topic, is how the shit like Sunder and all those, are they going to alternating or are they going to be hitting with both weapons at the same time? Because I don't think it's clear from the manifesto.
I don't think they thought about that. I really don't think they did.
If it's both at the same time, then that does tread somewhat on the design space of some others, like Cleave,
exactly,
like you said,
Cleave,
and Dual Strike.
Yeah.
But they just removed the mechanic that, they removed the fucking mechanic where you had you were hitting only with the main hand, even if the offhand was able to use it too. So, I mean, you just took the Singspainter out from the skill to begin with. Why don't you just do that, combine them to be the same kind of stuff, Dual Strike and Cleave then?
Should we dig into this?
Yeah,
now?
since yeah, just bring it up now since we talk about it now. So
because I'm actually rather disappointed with the way that stat sticks were handled with
I think
nerf.
Everyone is, to be fair.
I think this is horrible change.
I don't think that stat sticks didn't deserve some kind of nerf. I'm not, I don't know, being an apologist, I guess, for stat sticks, but I really dislike removing what they themselves termed to be an interesting gameplay element in having to, have specific weapon choice and consider whether or not your skill hit with the main hand only. Like stat sticking as a mechanic is interesting. And this leaves a lot of uniques out in the cold, potentially, if they don't get significantly changed. Like, when is someone going to use Death's Hand? For spells, stat sticking hasn't changed much, if at all, unless we see something in the patch notes for that. So Death's Hand is getting outperformed by Shaper stat sticks. And for attacks, Death's Hand has really low DPS, so it's never going to be used when you're hitting with it.
And Rick Waltz. Rick Waltz is like the worst case
Because
here,
it's
I
a
think.
sword
Because
and a
there's an
mace,
axe and a
right?
sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think is it either axe or a sword or
No, I think
mace,
yeah,
I
you're
don't
right. It's
remember
axe and a
exactly.
sword. Yeah.
But like you can't scale both of them really well because you would use dual wield nodes or just generic damage nodes, and then
Just play Varian Astra if you want to do that.
For anyone who missed like specifically why mixing different weapons is bad, one of the changes they've done is if I'm dual wielding an axe and a sword, for example, I wouldn't be able to use whirling blades, even though you can use whirling blades with swords because you can't use whirling blades with axes. I would be able to use leap slam because you can leap with both an axe and a sword. That's it's the way it affects movement skills is the thing which I'm most like iffy on, because there are a lot of unique combinations of weapons, even when it comes to just like spellcasters, which you now can't do because you've like shit. I can't actually do any movement setups now.
But you can. There's always a movement setup you can do.
If you did a claw and a mace, you can't use any attack movement skills.
Well, maybe not attack.
You can always use flame dash, but you can't use any attack movement skills, which might
if
be
you're
a
using
good
wands,
thing.
then you can't use.
Again,
there's like so many other places where you're limited, anyways.
Like, this is why I'm kind of on the fence about it, because my first reaction is like, shit, but at the same time, I've been crying for ages saying I want nerfs to movement speed, and if this is how they're gonna do it, then I might be into it. The only thing which worries me about it is how often in Path of Exile they nerf something, and so people don't just accept it, they just don't play it. And that's the thing which worries me, is we might be in a situation where, well, you could just use Flame Dash, but we might just be in a situation like, well, you're just not going to use those weapons now because you don't have good movement skills with those weapons.
Well, there's not a lot of downside to going dagger and shield or going dual daggers. Like, you get a ton of damage out of that setup anyways, and you can still shield charge or whirling blades for fortify. Like, this is denying options to some niche builds that maybe wanted to hold, a
two specific
mace
uniques
and a dagger without really damaging the stuff that's strong. If we're talking about spellcaster movement options, like, most of my spellcaster builds were dagger and shield anyway. That's not really going to be changing. I'm probably still going to shield charge.
Or like dual building foils and whirling blading or leaping or something like that.
For like multi and physis extra and stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of collateral damage here to specific uniques as well as different archetypes and like ways of playing the game. And I feel like the goal of toning down stat sticks and toning down dual wielding with stat sticks could have been achieved through other much more limited means that aren't as heavy-handed.
It's just as simple as making the gain extra as other type to apply to the weapon that it's on. That alone is like a massive nerf to using a stat stick for melee, and it's a big deal breaker for spellcasting too.
Yeah. Do you want to do that? I mean, now every single physical spellcaster.
Oh, it's just an example.
The nerf the nerf that I've proposed a few times to the small audience that watches me ramble daily is having a single prefix and a single suffix phys extra available on a weapon, and you can't get more than one prefix with that. You can't get more than one suffix. So it's just basically a numerical nerf. The reason why I don't want to just cut all the values in half is because then rolling a decent starter stat stick is much harder because you have to get like 2 or 3 rolls for it to be good. This way you can still get one good roll and then like attack speed or something as a suffix, and it'll still be a decent weapon. And you can also still get like up to 80% phys gained as extra, and that's still very strong for end game without being completely overpowering to all the other options.
We already have that kind of thing when it comes to like plus socketed like gem times, right? You can't have +2 fire and +2 lightning on the same item.
It would,
so it's like it doesn't exist already.
It would kind of make sense. I think I think
You
we can
don't. You
probably.
guys
I'll go on
don't
then.
seem any like. You just don't. You don't like nothing they've done here makes sense to you or what?
This is what I was gonna say.
I mean, because I feel like it's like, oh, we should do it this, and this way, but definitely not how they did any of it.
I
That's what
think
I'm
we were
hearing.
all
Yeah.
expecting a numerical change. I don't think anyone was expecting they're going to like physically restrict how the weapon types work.
My issue is that they removed a interesting mechanic out of the game when nerfing this, while not affecting other things that this previous mechanic was also affecting. That's my biggest issue.
I think there is a problem with the way they did it. Affects like because I'm sure that the dual wheel mechanic was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But then the same thing with AoE and other things that they had problems with is that it affects too many things, and it pretty much all the other melee skills, right? Which other melee skills were like are even good with being able to stat stick? Like even with old stats, even with unique stat sticks. I mean, there's just so many that they don't see play. I feel like there's like a way to.
And you think this will make them see play?
No, not this. Oh no. But don't get me wrong here. I don't think that it's gonna. This is not gonna improve like the usage of melee skills over like one-handed melee skills overall. I think that's a problem. I think like numerical changes and all that kind of stuff needs to happen for melee skills. There's plenty of buffs that I think that they should do, and I mean we can talk to length on that. But I don't think it's unreasonable to lock out this mechanic. It's also super confusing. It doesn't really make sense. But it's just they've allowed it to fester. Like they've allowed this to be in the game for so long that we've just grown accustomed to it, and it's just this. I don't know.
It's been built around as well, not even just from the player standpoint, but from the developer
they started
standpoint.
building around it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like either they continue to do that or they have to like.
If they killed this for spells as well, I would be 100% with this change. That's the thing which doesn't make sense to me, because they're like, okay, this is too powerful. Yes, it's interesting. Yes, it's kind of clever, but we can't have it in the game. We're going to delete it. Blade Vortex, by the way. Let's go.
Oh no, I agree. Like it's ridiculous that two weapons with a 100% gain is crazy. It's ridiculous. That stat in itself is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And it's also how like common it is as well on stat sticks. It's like way too common. How powerful it is.
Why I'm clamoring for a numerical nerf instead of what they've done, because that I think was the mistake, not the implementation of false dual wielding, not the stat sticking, but rather just taking stat sticking and expanding it to be this huge monster. Like they built this monster, and now instead of trying to talk it back down and shrink it back down into something manageable, they're just killing it. Yeah, just removing this whole portion of. They're amputating a limb that could still be saved.
Yeah, exactly. And it also, like, by using your suggestion of having it so you can only have one mod, it would make crafting gear a lot more interesting. Because let's say you were playing a Tectonic Slam build and you're doing a bunch of Fizz to Fire conversion, then you're like, I want to specifically get a Fizz to Fire stat stick. You don't want just any elemental mod. So, like, people craft their weapons more uniquely for each build. And also, it would be a really easy way to buff two hands at the same time, because if weapons can only have one of these mods, then you just give two hands the bigger mod. So it's like, oh, if you want to do this Fizz as Ellie bullshit, two hands have the bigger one, but one hands give you more skill options or movement or whatever.
Have to remember, though, that there's a lot of weapon types that have, for example, one mod that I don't really see anyone ever use is a Shaper mod on an axe. First of all, there's a gain endurance charge on crit. There's a explosion suffix on a mace.
That's really
good. There's like a lot of good. There's a really good mods.
It's fun.
Yeah. Like you can actually have.
So this is what I never see. I never see anyone actually using two weapons, except for like cleave. But I mean, it is just
crossblades. If you crossblade is
one of those.
But that's just not really played, right? Yeah.
Right. We never see anyone like craft. Like the crafting of one-handed weapons is something we don't see a lot. I want them to improve the baseline availability of like weapons in general. It's gonna buff non-dual wielding and non-stat stick builds as well, like things with just a regular shield. It'll like bring up everything.
Yeah, there's a good point to be made there that it is so difficult to craft something like a good fizz foil that is a barrier standing in the way of dual wielding good fizz foils rather than fizz
Daggers
foil and
as
shield.
well.
Well,
or fizz
not
foil and stat stick.
anymore though, because we've seen the new crafted mods, and we're crafting like what was it, 130 fizz on a bow or something crazy?
Yeah, it was a cruel.
Yeah, like
That-
Like T3.
if we can force like 130 crafts, then crafting weapons is easy as fuck.
That is possibly tied into the changes to stat sticking, and it could be part and parcel to what they're doing there, where they're trying to make it then easier to have a legitimate option of physical weapon dual wielding. And I'd be happy to see that be compensation for the nerfs. But I'm still just always unhappy, I think, as Karv said earlier, to see an interesting gameplay mechanic die. Like, I don't think stat sticking was bad. You mentioned it earlier, Tarke, that it like seems a little unintuitive. I honestly, I
That
can
was
see
Nugi,
where you're
that
coming
wasn't
from
me.
with that. Oh, that was Nugi? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. My bad.
Yeah, screw you,
but-
Nugi. Ugh.
What?
No.
It's okay, Nugi. It's okay. But like, I personally actually think it's kind of a clever, leap of logic to go, oh, well, this only uses axes. I'm still allowed to wield an axe and a sword, so it's not going to hit with my sword, so I can use the sword for stat benefits. That's kind of neat. Like, there's a chain of logic there that can be followed if you are, thinking about it and you have all the information available. But I guess that's sometimes the problem.
I think one of my
I mean, you
favorite
can-
examples of that, was when Facebreaker builds first became a thing in super old school PoE, and people using Black Gleam quivers for the Fizz to Fire conversion, back when it was really difficult to get Fizz to Ellie conversion. And people were like, holy shit, that's so smart. He's using a quiver on a punching build. Sick.
Yeah, and
Or
skirmish to get
SRS
additional
with
totem.
bows.
Yeah.
I really loved the SRS with bows.
Yeah.
Back in the day when we got the essences and started crafting like +2 like +3 bows. So that's was really fun.
And can you like imagine a situation where in an alternate timeline, quivers, like Fizzbow builds are dominating because quivers get tons of fizz gain as extra modifiers, and quivers can get up to like 90% fizz gain as extra. And then that creeps into the unarmed meta, and suddenly Facebreaker is the only melee build that's viable because it's the only build that can take advantage of 100% fizz gain as extra off a quiver. And then the way they fix that is they make it so you can't use quivers with Facebreaker. It's the same situation as that, and we lose doing like Ancestral Warchief builds with Skirmish. We would lose doing Facebreaker builds with fire conversion from the quiver slot. And I would be equally annoyed. Like, I want to have these cool and not really provoking, but thoughtful interactions.
But you make it sound like there's just going to be a void now, and there's nothing that's going to be fun, and we can explore and we can try new combinations of things. Or
Oh no, that's not my intent. I can definitely.
I don't think that's a good argument though. Like because there's other options, or because there's bigger problems that we can't talk about smaller problems.
I
but
think-
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's as if like you're putting everything as if you're just cutting off the head of something, as if there's like just now it's just done and dead and gone, and it's a void, and there's no other thing we can do. And
Okay, Nugi, I'm going to ask you this question, because I feel like we
Okay.
all agree, but we're arguing semantics.
Okay.
What's
ahead.
your problem that some people had daggers in their hand that they weren't using? Or was the problem that the dagger was too powerful? It wasn't that they had a dagger. So it's like, if it just wasn't as
Okay,
powerful...
so one of the problems was the way, like, okay, so main hand usage, and I mean this came back to like leap slamming around as well, and all that was kind of weird. But this was back with the movement skill. I mean that was just, I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I don't know. I don't really inherently have a problem with. I don't have a problem with either. With there
Okay.
being more of a. The thing is, I don't think that we're losing as much as people are saying.
I don't
That
think
kinda
we're losing...
frustrates
I
me.
think we're losing a little bit of something which is kind of nice. I'm mostly just annoyed this will still affect spells. However, they could still on the patch notes say this is a local mod. If this hurts spells as well, I would be 100% with this change, for the record. It's just...
I mean, I think they need to do something with the stat stick for the spells. That's just...
But related to this topic, and so we don't get stuck in the same thing, when Ascendancies first came out, one of the things that concerned me was the pigeonholing of certain abilities into Ascendancies. And I've had arguments back and forth for days about this on loads of past Baeclasts. And we're seeing with brands, these really cool new skills coming out, that Hierophant specifically is going to have brand nodes. And we've seen it with Pathfinder having specifically Agony nodes. Now, those nodes aren't that good, for the record, so I don't feel like people feel forced into playing Pathfinder Agony. But it would really suck if it's like, oh, brands are sick, but if you're playing a brand build, you have to play Hyro. And how do you feel about that targeted pushing?
They are going to add stuff to the tree, right?
There'll be nodes on the tree and nodes on Hyro, and I think with Champion, it's... I don't think they said anything about banner nodes on the tree. I think that's just on Champion.
Okay, I mean, if you look at totems, for instance, they added the new support gem, which is it's basically Hierophant from before, right? You get the extra and all that, and then so you get 2 extra totems, plus you get like some Hierophant on there, and now they're removing 1 totem from Hierophant.
And so they said they're going to put it back on the tree,
Yeah, so you're kind of like, you're spreading that out more. So they're creating more like totem diversity across everyone. Yeah. So I don't think that this idea that they're only like they're pigeonholing us more into certain archetypes when they're opening up totems more. That's
one example. And then so the counter argument would be Herald of Purity on Guardian, and then the thing on Pathfinder, and now the thing on Champion, and now the thing on Hyro, and now the cold damage thing on Occultist.
And my argument is that I played Herald of Agony on Scion, Gladiator, Pathfinder, Guardian, and Occultist, and they were all really good.
Herald of Agony might stand out as a bit of an outlier, though, because just the raw stats on Herald of Agony are so incredibly high.
And the Pathfinder Agony node is really shit. Like, let's be fucking real, it's terrible.
Brands might not be in quite the same state as that. We don't know yet.
That is true.
If the brand node on Hyro is the power level of the Agony node on Pathfinder, then fucking go for it. I don't give a shit.
I think my only is just when it's like too specific, like we have the reduced cooldown of Blink on a Deadeye and Convocation and Necro. I think it's like something like Sproda's traps and mines in general, like Saboteur, is kind of fine, but I think when we go to like into way too specific for like one skill, then I don't really like it anymore.
I think Convocation is a good example, because like Convocation on Necro feels good. If you're using it on non-Necro, it just feels bad.
And I think it sort of leaks over into the design space for other aspects of your character. Like previously, unique items were what handled that kind of skill behavior. Yeah. If we're talking about, something like there's the Prophecy Helmet for Summon Holy Relic that lets you summon a second Holy Relic. Like if that were just an Ascendancy node instead, it would be a lot less interesting to me, because I wouldn't be able to have that option on multiple different Ascendancies. Like I want to be able to mix and match those skill effects with whatever class I want to choose to try and play them in. So it would be kind of cool if there was like a quiver that gave you the cooldown reduction for Blink Arrow, or I don't know what the equivalent would be for brands. What's a brand themed item? But
see, that's a really interesting discussion. But I believe Chris said this when we had him on Baeclast. He said that was. It may not have been Chris. It's something we've talked about on Baeclast. So I won't pin it on him. But a big discussion at the time was people didn't like the fact that you had items existing which took the flavor out of Ascendancies. And that was the one worry, that if you have, for example, the Quiver, which gives you the Deadeye effect, then it's, well, why would I play a Deadeye when I can just use this Quiver on a Scion? And it's... There's no right or wrong answer. I generally agree with you. I think a good example is kind of like what they're doing with Hyro, where you can choose, do I want to use the support gem to summon 2 totems at a time, or do I want to use Hyro to summon 2 at a time, or maybe then also have a node on the tree? But
I think the line is drawn then at like skill specific effects.
Yeah.
So if you're having something that changes the like behavior of a skill very significantly, that has more of a place on a unique item than on an ascendancy, would be the argument.
Pyro is only one totem. No, there's the new multiple totem support gem makes you actually lay 2 totems at a time, and they're putting that on Hierophant as well. And we don't think they'll stack because of how it's
like
worded.
The wording is
Yeah.
pretty clear that they don't stack.
Yeah.
It doesn't take additional. It just says 2 instead.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any kind of confusion on that. Or is there?
No, I think it's definitely it'll be 2. I think it's definitely 2. But since we kind of brought that up, multiple totem support gem is so amazing. And
Yes.
I got really triggered by people looking at it from a damage point of view because it reminded me of Mirage Archer so much. Because when Mirage Archer first came out, I was like, this is sick. And everyone was like, but Tarke, it's not actually that much of a DPS increase. And like you try and explain how clear speed works and how, well, it automates gameplay. So on bossing, you know, you're casting less, or, you know, with totems, you're literally like casting less totems. So your boss damage is going up, even though your tooltip is going down. And
It's also a strict DPS upgrade for some setups, like Scourge, where it always goes for max stages before it uses the skill, right?
Yeah.
Which is a lot of extra damage. So it's not even always just less damage. And like the multi-totem is actually a lot of extra damage for a lot of builds. You can do War Chief, you can do it with utility, like you can do a Firecaster, and then you just level like a spell totem, multi-totem, Scorching Ray, and suddenly you just like get like damage from that. You can have multiple decoy totems. There's just so many different ways. You can also have 2 setups where you have like let's say that you'd have a
decoy
Ray,
and a
yeah.
wither totem on a toxic
No,
ray.
but you could have like 2 setups where on the other setup like for 2 different skills, where on the other skill you have the multi-totem that allows you to get 2 extra totems for that while not being restricting to the totem cap on the other skill.
And the one case where the less multi doesn't actually do anything at all is with the chieftain node that causes totems to reflect a portion of their own health as damage that isn't affected by any scalars like increased or more damage or less damage in this case. So you're actually just getting a buff, like you're just getting the additional totem. And so that build, it's been around in a few forms. As I think it was a build of the week a long time ago as like a barrage reverse knockback range attack totem. But you can do it as a lot of different things.
So you're confirming reverse knockback taunt totems is your leech starter for 3.5, Octavian?
Probably not, but I might give it a try at some point. I'm probably going to be going for a totem build in general, but maybe something a bit more practical.
Okay, so the other things, so we don't get bogged down, we still need to talk about Winter Orb and then Arctic Breath and like Bone Chill. My first reaction was really shit. I was like, the fuck is cold damage over time multiplier? Just because reading cold damage over time multiplier was bad. However, the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of into it, because currently on live, you can make a like passable cold snap build. Like you can make it be like a decent league starter. So if it gains all of this support, I could actually see it being decent. And the guy I'm duoing with, he really wants to play a Winter Orb Occultist, and he's trying to get me to play a Bone Chill build, basically to support his build, because it's global more cold damage. What did you guys think of the whole Bone Chill meme?
Before I go into that, let me just say that the multi-totem support says that support skills that spawn totems. Now the quick question is, will it allow Tukohamas to get extra totems?
That was my first thought as well. That would be OP as fuck if that works in Tukohama.
Yeah, I don't think it worked, but
yeah.
you know, maybe that's flipped. But yeah, either way, I think I really like the Bone Chill support, because not only you can use it as a damage support to do damage, you can also use it in a utility setup to make the increased damage taken. And the new multiplier is just, I mean, it's just another more multiplier, right? It's just basically like giving us a more multiplier in skill tree, kind of.
I mean, casting damage taken cold snap is already very powerful. So if you're playing any cold build, you just put Bone Chill into your cast damage taken, and that's just more deeps.
I heard a lot of people saying that a lot of like it's not very good because a lot of bosses can't be chilled, but just so people know, like you can actually That they removed the you can chill bosses, right? I'm fairly certain, right? It's the only you can't freeze them. They have like a limit to how much they can be slowed.
They cannot be slowed like into like completely stopping it.
No, yeah, that's like the only thing. So
And also
it does work.
There's the whole thing with that was the one thing which I'm a little bit on the fence about, because obviously Elementus has the guaranteed chill. In my mind, I would play a Cold Snap Trickster, so I don't want to kill myself, because at least I'm still playing Trickster. But I'm probably going to have to play Elementalist to guarantee the chills, and then I'm also feeding Shock to the party. So I'm probably going to end up doing that, and then if it's not good, I'll just play like Fireball, because Fireball Ignite is like legit. So.
But you're chilling already with the Cold Snap.
Is it a guaranteed
you don't
chill?
have the,
like against bosses?
You don't have the chill with the damage for the effect. It's just as chills, right? So you don't have to do the. I mean, the damage threshold to actually chill is kind of low, but you don't have to chill through a damage to get benefit of it, yeah, right? I think it was just. It didn't say anything towards that, if I remember correctly.
We're getting the angry typing now. We'll work it out. Just use Aquamarine.
I mean, yeah, check it, of course. I don't want to talk out of my, head.
Aquamarine support build. Let's go.
Cold Snap does spread chilled ground, so that should have a minimum chill first.
Okay. Well, in that case, I can still play Trickster. Yay.
Though, since it spreads chilled ground, I'm pretty sure it worked this way with Ice Shot. I don't know if it works with the new Cold Snap. Chilled ground is its own separate thing. It's like it doesn't scale off of your own chill effect, I believe. Like if you're spawning chilled ground from a skill effect. Like the hit from the skill will scale off chill effect, but I don't know if the chilled ground effect would.
But you all seem... So you're all into the idea of Bone Chill then? None of you kind of like, on it?
I like playing cold damage over time builds. I played a Vol Cold Snap Trickster back in Incursion. It was a lot of fun. Really sad about the Vol duration skill changes still. Yeah. But I'm glad to see more options there and more ways to scale it. I'm a little biased because Trickster is my favorite ascendancy, so I'm going to probably be playing that at some point.
I'm pretty sure you can scale the chill
from the chilled ground.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know where I would look into that. Maybe I can just like message.
I'm not 100% sure on this. I haven't really done any chill builds, but I'm pretty sure you can scale it.
Can you scale shock ground?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm thinking that it should also affect chill ground.
If you can scale shock ground, then yeah, that will work then.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, since we kind of hit a doldrum with that, then, and we kind of touched on stat sticks, are there any other? Oh, go on, Nugi.
I felt like I couldn't really express what I meant.
Go for it.
So on the stat stick part, because what do we gain from stat sticks? Yeah, it's like interesting, or you can use such and such, but are we just holding ourselves to the idea that it's interesting that we can use something that is not supposed to be used? Like for the unique design, I completely agree that this is like a mess, right? They have so many interesting uniques, and I think it's a shame that all that just disappears. So straight off the bat, I think that is a definite loss. But in most cases, they are literally just stat sticks. And this idea that we're getting something special out of a stat stick, apart from maybe the explosion now, it's just damage. Nobody actually uses it. Like nobody's like dual wielding two weapons anymore, or something like that we used. Like people tried to at least. But what are we really losing?
That's because they are just too strong, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to completely cut their head off and remove them. You can just make them less strong, right?
It's a symptom of the damage. It's a symptom of the option for damage being so much more attractive than any of the other options. Yeah, I would love to see maybe some of the damage mods tuned back and some of the utility mods buffed on stat sticks. Like, let's buff the explosion.
But what happens if you replace the stat stick with a weapon?
Then
why is that worse?
Roll too good. It's not inherently.
Because now you don't have some of the uniques have but you already said the unique. But now you can't use those uniques for those special things, and you can't use those niche because the damage options were better. but now you can't even use those niche mods like the Enduring Charge on crit.
And now you're gonna look for, okay, what skills can actually use the uniques?
Okay, let me give you.
So that now we can get, like, we're going for, because like there will have to balance all these different skills, right? Going forward, because there's a lot of these skills that are just going to be left in the dirt with being much weaker without a stat stick, right? So obviously melee rebalance will need to come in.
Okay, let me just give you this example, sorry. So let's say they make a really cool new dagger in the future, which just has a fun global effect. It's just like an aura for your character. You can never use that on a Sunder build. Never.
No, but you will then think, what can I use it on? Oh, I can finally use my dual strike build.
True, but would it not be...
Nobody thinks like that right now.
But would it not be better to get rid of the outliers and then just be able to like, oh, I like to play this skill, so I'm going to use the items I want with the skills I want. Basically, we would rather have choices.
Have both. That is, I mean, if we can have everything that is better.
That's the argument, though, is that I think there was room to have both.
We don't have that right now.
Yes,
Soul Taker,
Noogie,
Soul Taker is the perfect example.
Yeah.
Soul Taker is the perfect fucking example. That is an item which has been... Because that's an axe, so you cannot use that in any attack build which can't use axes.
Well,
you could have used Soul Taker before to make playthrough, for example.
But what are we gaining by no longer be able to use Soul Taker and builds?
The change that happens is no longer we can't use those interactions, and we lost damage, which is going to be just replaced with another weapon that can be used with the skill now. So we're just shifting where the damage is coming from into another weapon. That's basically what the change is for those melee skills, right?
Because you're not going to be able to use the offhand weapon for a utility effect anyway. Yeah. Because if you do, that's devoting the offhand weapon's affixes to utility, and that's not DPS, and you're hitting with that now. So you're like kneecapping your build by doing so. So you're probably just going to use a Lycosidé.
Yeah. Or you get an under shield for more survivability, and now you can drop some damage, like life notes.
From these changes,
and put in the damage
with accuracy, and I mean, there's plenty of ways to get around the Lycosidé on like.
From these changes, most people who want to play melee builds will most likely just use a fucking shield. Like, let's be real. Most people are just going to equip a shield.
Even if just for the economic aspect of it, like getting two good DPS weapons.
People are going to use dual uniques as well. I mean, there's.
But they couldn't, like, dual unique builds exist we're literally arguing ourselves. I get where you're coming from. It's just, I don't feel like we're gaining more than we're losing. And again, it's not like they've deleted...
No, like, in the short term, we're definitely losing more than we're gaining. I can agree with that.
I think it's also fair to say that it also you could say it opens design space, you could also say it limits design space. I guess let's say that I'm Rory and I've always had this amazing idea and I'm like, oh, I want to buff claws, so I want to make this really cool claw, but I can't make it because people use it as a stat stick in Sunder builds. I guess you could argue it gives them the option to make more unique effects for unique weapon types. That's an actual positive to the system, rather than too bad. I'll give you that one, Nugi.
But you could use the claw as the claw. I don't think it takes anything away that you can use it for something else too. They made Righteous Fire to be a more spell damage buff temporarily, and they didn't have any issues with people using it as a standalone skill either. I don't think having the extra option is a bad thing.
I think we're fairly set now, so I'm gonna make the executive decision. We're gonna move past it. One thing I really do want to talk about, and made no sense to me whatsoever, why are we buffing ES now? Because ES has been fine for a long time, and then it keeps getting better, and then with fossils, people are like, oh, ES is good, and now we're putting flat energy shield on the skill tree. Why are we doing that?
Because not enough people are using it yet.
Now it's just going to be broken. It's going to be ES meta again. Like, come on.
Yeah, and then when too many people use it, then it's like
a year later we'll go back. Yeah,
that's the cycle. That's the cycle. That's the cycle. Yeah.
Sort of related to that, I'm very happy that Eldridge Battery is getting buffs, and a lot of people were complaining that self-cast didn't get a lot of attention in the manifesto, and I think the changes to Eldridge Battery are quite a boon for self-cast. I think they even said that in the manifesto. Obviously not explicitly just for that, but it does help. You don't have to have like Warlord's Mark for Mana Leech in every self-cast build now.
I was about to say it's gonna also help non-self-casters. So
Yeah. No,
it,
it's not
it will buff
exclusively for
mines
that,
and totem builds as much as
yeah,
it will
yeah,
help cast
everything.
builds, yeah.
So I don't think you can use it as an argument for self-cast buff because it buffs everything else too. That's just like giving us a node in the middle of the skill tree that is you do deal 20% more damage, and then now that your self-cast build can take it, technically buffed self-cast build, but you also buffed others.
That
Unless
sounds
it's
like a 100% Reddit IQ solution. They buffed it, Tarke.
True, but the argument I would make is that self-cast builds often were more strapped for mana and mana sustained sources than something like traps and mines were actually pretty mana heavy, but at least totems you don't have to place them that frequently. And so it can in some ways be seen as helping more for those builds. It opens up a curse since you don't have to go Warlord's Mark for mana sustain. It opens up perhaps a lot of other options in terms of like building into more mana regen. You don't have to do that anymore. I'm happy with it one way or the other, but yeah.
Yeah, I really like the change. Yeah,
No, same. I think it's really nice seeing more builds going into like, oh, I can start running auras again. Because for a long time it felt like it was just like slap an Essence Worm or maybe run one aura, Mom AP. And now having the choice of do I want to play Mom or do I want to, you know, do Eldritch Battery stuff to get a bunch of extra auras in the build. I really like that. You still look defeated over the stat stick discussion, Nugiyen. I'm just throwing that out there.
Defeated? No. Don't even think I'm defeated.
Okay, sorry, exasperated. What's your opinion on the
contemplating.
EB?
I like to think. I like to reflect.
True, which is good.
Apart from a lot of other people who don't actually think about what they say and like try and like bring everything into reason, who just wants to be like, oh, this is my opinion and nothing is gonna change it, right? It's not like I went into the discussion thinking, "Oh, I'm right on everything," so I'm not. Right. So let's just get that out of the way. I still think people are clinging to the idea of statistics way too fucking hard. Like they always do in PoE. It's like, "Oh, this thing is dead." I'm like, "It's not dead." Come the next league, and it's like, "Wait, it's not dead." Who would have thought? That's like,
well, okay, to be fair, just on that thing, I genuinely agree people over exaggerate, but this isn't a nerf. This is a mechanical change. So therefore, the actual stat sticking is dead because you can't do it anymore. It's actually dead. They shot it in the face.
And I don't like it when they remove things, but I do also think that they're opening up a certain space that people haven't explored in like a long time. But it does require them, I would say, to really rethink. I think the unique stuff, that's a big loss, all the uniques. But again, it requires you to actually work on melee now quite a lot.
The potential for improvement is there. I just really hope, and I think we can all agree, we don't have a repeat of the AoE situation where like, hey, AoE is little good guys, let's just fuck AoE for like 2 years, and then we'll start to bring it back up. I'd be really upset if they were just like, fuck this, and then it took another 2 years before it got good again.
No, I agree. I have all the same concerns that you guys have on that. Just know that I'm not just sitting here. Oh, it's perfect what they did, because I don't think if they just do this, it's perfect. No. On the EB though, that's great.
You know what else we're all very excited about? Cock.
No, what? Yes.
Extremely.
Just before we go away from EB, the helmet.
It's really nice.
Oh, the fact that you can now you can be EB anywhere.
You can just slap the helmet on and you're good to go.
You can be like a jog EB. You get some of the flat stuff on the tree.
Also, the Trickster, 40% attack and cast speed if your recharge has started recently.
Oh yeah,
Really
that's
good.
actually good.
A ridiculous amount from Trickster.
That is crazy good. But let's talk about Cock.
Yeah. So,
TOS.
Yeah. Demonetized, thanks, YouTube. So, yeah, I mean, Cock's pretty cool. Anyone got any cool Cock plans, or I don't know? Is anyone actually going to try cast on melee kill? Let's be real. They said they're going to buff it. It's fucking dead.
I was theory crafting a cast on melee kill build, and it doesn't work the way it didn't work the way I wanted it to. So I was gonna do a Namahu's Cyclone cast on melee kill Volatile Dead, and use Southbound and Ellie Focus on the Namahu's procs, and then like try and ignite things with the Cyclone. But if you ignite with a melee hit, it doesn't count as a melee kill when the ignite kills it. It has to be an actual melee hit that kills them, which would mean I'd have to freeze them with the Cyclone, and it's not going to do nearly enough damage for that consistently, so it doesn't work.
Can I just say I loved how it's just I planned out a cast when I kill build. It doesn't work.
I put like an hour and a half
Not surprised.
and then I went and actually looked at the skill gem, and it's like, oh, this won't work at all. Oh boy.
I think we've all done that at least once. We've like planned an entire build and actually like read the gem. Go, oh no, that's not how this functions. Okay.
It's great. It's great that that's possible in this game. As far as cast on crit goes, though, it looks like it could be interesting with the new what's the name of it? Lancing Steel. With how frequently that hits, you could use it as a cast on crit like proc thing. Not that there's lacking in those. You know, Cyclone is still perfectly fine. Lancing Steel gives you range. Toxic Rain has a lot of hits. Yeah, actually, that's interesting.
I'm really looking forward to the return of Quill Rain cast on crit. I always thought that was one of the coolest ones.
Ooh, but why though?
It just looks cool.
Shaper bows.
Just use a thicket bow with
Shaper
the
bows,
cast on
dude,
crit
with-
mod.
Yes.
With the fucking more damage, like the chance to deal more like
damage
double
is
damage.
global.
Boom. Yeah.
And crit chance on there, and like all
Quill,
the mods. and-
Quill Rain is just like stepping stone into the big boy weapons.
Quill Rain is like just bad for casting. Quill Rain was like the meme that people used for Spark when it first came out. Like that was when it was that was the only time.
There's
I
one
remember.
guy really excited for his Quill Rain freeze pulse build.
I theory
And
craft.
That's a lot of,
Honestly,
I mean,
yeah.
that's a lot of projectile speed, so I'll give him that, I guess.
Yeah, no. I
There's-
mean, it's never been good. It's never been a good cast and crit weapon. It's a meme.
You know what I want to see? I want to see Poet Spen cast on crit builds.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
you get-
once.
You get the Poet Spen proccing spells, and then you have the cast and crit on top.
So wait, are we saying poets are good?
No?
No.
Do you think we'll see any nerfs to poets since they're changing everything? Like,
They might get very, very rare with how they talked about
Yeah,
unique
yeah.
rebalancing.
yeah.
Ah.
And we have the new
I
div
hope-
card now. Be good timing for it.
Oh god.
Because they did that with like Lycosidae, right? Like that was the thing of like it was super common, and they're like, "Fuck it, let's just make it really rare."
Oh yeah, look at. I don't want to. The shield, the good shield, is probably gonna be easy to get with ancient orbs though. Still.
Yes, so you can cheese the eye level and stuff.
Mhm.
That's actually we didn't talk about that at all. How do we feel about the whole unique rework they hinted at? Like the rare uniques, we're actually gonna make them feel good that they're rare, and then the ones which you don't want to make feel good, we just make them really common. I kind of like that if they execute it well.
Yeah, if they make
Really?
it right, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I really liked getting insight into how GGG thinks about unique design and how they want to move forward, and how they've like laid out these 4 rules. I forget exactly the specifications for each of them. It was if it's really rare and not super powerful, they want to bring it up to a power level where it feels good. If it's like powerful and defining for the build, but not treading on the toes of the whole archetype, like really powerful for these 2 builds, but not ruining options for other builds, they're going to basically keep it where it is. If it's really powerful and treading on an archetype, they'll make it rare, and I forget the last one.
Nerfing excessive power. What's everyone's like go-to? You can pick 2 items that realistically are excessive power, which they would slap.
Oh, I have 3.
Go for it.
Can I pick 3?
Go 3.
I'll give you my other one.
Gluttony, Surfeit Heart, and Headhunter.
I mean, I don't think they're going to hit those. It's obvious to hit those. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit something like Taste of Hate, because Taste of Hate's been good for so long. They nerfed roomies for fuck's sake, and they're like,
Taste of Hate needs to be nerfed with the way they nerf that flask is because that's really a rare flask.
Yeah.
It's hard to get. Like it spiked in price so much because it's really rare. So I don't think it was just available because people didn't like realize its power. Right, so people didn't really get them in their builds, and they didn't need to either, because we didn't need that much defense. But they need to address max res overall, and if they address that, then the flask would.
You could also make the argument that Taste of Hate got indirectly buffed by the removal of stat sticks because its effect became more powerful.
I have no problem with that.
As far as uniques that I think might see nerfs, I think the one probably chat is shouting a ton right now is Impulses.
Yes,
'Cause
please.
yeah.
Oh, fucking
That
wing
like
clip it.
embodies
Yeah.
the treads, like ruins design space. Like there's very few other chess piece options that compete with it, and probably Tomb Fist actually.
Tomb Fist seemed a pretty obvious one, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the
Also,
thing
we're
with
talking like not obvious ones.
with Impulsor though, right? Like if they remove the life roll, would that stop anyone from using it?
No, I would still use it.
Yeah. Like
It's
that,
also got
It's the
unaffected.
explosion. It's like the explosion.
that's
the
the thing which
problem.
is so crazy about it though. It's like when they release it, it's like it's got unaffected by shock, which is just like
Yep.
lit, and then it's got a really nice life roll, and then it has the explosion. They could remove the unaffected
Seriously.
by shock, remove the life, and people would still use it. Like that's how good it is.
It could just have the explosion. And people
That's what I
use
would
it.
do probably.
If it just had the explosion, it would at least have a pretty significant downside
Yeah.
in that it's costing you a lot of single target potential. Like you're not scaling effective shock for an elementalist, which is a really powerful stat to scale for bossing. But yeah, I think it might still be used. I mean, corpse explosion effects have been used in basically every other form they've been in Path of Exile in the past. Like people have used Obliteration, they've used Abyssal Cry, they've used Gladiator back when the Bleed Explosion was more reasonable to get. They've used Hemophilia. Like these are all items that saw some level of play. Corpse Explosion on an item basically guarantees it'll see some play.
How many non-elementalists use Impulsor or Scions and any like shock builds which aren't elementalist? Quite a few.
Pathfinder.
No. A lot of people in chat are saying
Maybe not
Lore
that
Weave.
much
I'm
anymore.
kind of okay with Lore Weave.
Loreweave is
Yeah.
also one that's harder to balance in terms of balancing it by rare, because you can't just make all rings rarer by 2 steps.
Yeah. I think I
They
really
could
like
make it so it needs like, well, you can't make it need more than an inventory either, because
Mm.
that's all you can vendor to a vendor. I
No,
don't
what
know.
happens now is it's a full inventory and you get a token for half a Lore Weave. So you need to do 2 full inventories.
Okay.
I think the reason why I'm very much fine with Lore Weave is the fact that it caps out your max res. Like, it removes a lot of very broken, like, defenses. Because if you're using Lore Weave, you're not, like, going crazy, like, Flask effect, all the resist flasks and stuff. And then it doesn't have loads of damage. It's got a little bit of damage. It's got a little bit of life, you know. I like it. I think it's fine.
I think they're gonna nerf the Worm Flask. Because the
Again,
Worm Flask
yeah.
is the thing that is carrying the Plutonium element through giving rampage stacks. So I don't think they're gonna nerf the gloves because that kills the animate weapon build. I can't remember the name. The dancing duo.
Dancing Joe, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think they're gonna do anything with that. So I think what I think they're gonna do is they're gonna make the worms from the Worm Flask no longer grant rampage kills. So you can't
But that kills Dancing
Say-
Duo.
not as much as the gloves chains.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily have to keep giving the worms for that.
I
So
really
think-
hope they don't. I finally
me
played
neither, but I
Dancing
think
Duo. It's a really nice build. It's really
It's
nice.
either that or they're gonna mechanically change how temporal chains affects skill cooldowns or wall skill, like the lockout of wall skill gains.
You don't think they would
It's either
target,
that.
you don't think they would target the handling of conversion of damage with Gluttony of Element to just prevent immunity through that means?
No, I don't think they're gonna do that.
Hmm.
Because that affects a lot of other builds too.
Questions.
Or I mean, what they
since-
could
okay.
what they could do is they could make it work like old Wallback, where first you take the damage and then you get healed after, but then you're now completely changing how the skill works altogether. Because right now it combines the damage you lose through taking damage and then the damage you gain, like the life you gain through taking damage from the heal, and then if that is a negative, you lose life. If that's a positive, you gain, and if that's a 0, nothing happens. So that's the first item. I think the second one is I don't want this to happen, but I think they're gonna limit Indigon to give a certain amount of damage, like just a hard cap. I think that's what they might do. I don't want them to do that, but that's what I think they're gonna do.
I mean, they could just lower the amount of damage you get per stack.
Yeah, yeah, that could be a thing too.
I mean, that kind of achieves the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they put some kind of soft limit on that build.
What about the Incandescent Heart? With the extra ES on the tree as well, that becomes more powerful.
I don't think.
I mean, it's
I don't think they're
looked at
going to
the stats,
plan
it's
that
really
ahead.
popular.
It's really nice, but the fact that they're buffing ES makes me think they're not going to hit it. I think Incandescent Heart will sit for a while. Like, I don't think they're planning that far ahead.
I mean, it's never been addressed before, right? Has it?
No, I don't think they ever nerfed it. It's always been it's always been a pretty good chest. Like, I don't think
it needs any nerfs.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good unique.
it's nice.
It's also
Oh, go on.
It's also not crushing the competition quite as hard if you
No, it's true.
aren't skewed towards like hard, and if you're looking more at softcore statistics, where the majority of the player base is feeling the what's the word I'm looking for here? They're feeling the pressure, I guess, to use impulses or to use lore weave over other options, because a lot of people are playing life-based builds. A lot of people are more concerned about clearing as quickly as possible. Whereas Incandescent Heart has more of a place in a survival-focused environment.
Honestly, I'm gonna be surprised if they're gonna nerf impulse. But there's a lot of good unique chests, and now with all the Elder chest and Shaver chest, especially with fossils, you can do so many. Like Belly is no longer insane chest when you compare it to like an Elder chest.
Right? I mean, we can even just with the new mods, like the fact you can craft +1 curse on a chest now is insane.
Oh yeah, that too.
You don't necessarily need to kill all of these uniques if you're then adding all these crazy mods on. One thing which did really surprise me, which makes me think they might do something to Gluttony. The fact they mentioned temp chains in the developer manifesto was so strange, because it doesn't actually affect anyone, and all it does is make people who read it once get concerned. Like, I read it once and was like, oh, and then I read it again, I'm like, oh, it doesn't affect me, it's fine. So Karv, you can explain this one.
Okay, so the only reason we had that there is because if you had enough curse effect, so temporal chains has it has two different modifiers on it. It has slower effect, which you can remove by using comms roots, and then it has other effects expire 40% slower, and that's like a static. You can't increase that with quality. You can't increase that with levels. So the only way to scale that is through curse effect, and it's soft capped at 75% right now, but if you get 190% curse effect, I mean, it's 150, but it has a 40% reduced effect on players, so you need the extra 40 to get to 190. You actually make the 40% base exceed 100%, which makes every single effect that is affected by them chains last forever, as long as the curse is on you.
Basically, for anyone who got confused by that, there was this very niche thing you could do to get infinite buffs by self-casting temp chains, and it was so
only works,
fucking
and
niche.
You can only do it on PvP, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. Why did
You
they
can't
put
even
that in
do
the
it in game
manifesto?
right now.
Why did they just put it in the patch notes?
That's like a bug fix.
Yeah.
That's like a bug fix. Because there was a thread about asking about this, and asking about the cap, does it cap at 75 or does it keep going up? Because it's 70, from the base to 75%, and then nothing until you exceed the 100%. So there was a thread asking about this, and then Mark commented on that thread that you can't get 100% because it's to prevent bugs. Then I slapped in the video with the effect, getting to the 100%, and then he replied that really didn't want people to, find this out, and that's why it got changed now, because he said that we probably have to change it now.
So basically,
it was absolutely nothing for anyone using self-temp chaining to yourself, because most people never even got to the 75% to begin with. You have to be pretty much the only build like sentence can do that while being able to use a headhunter is an occultist, because otherwise you would have to use the incursion belt, Coward's Legacy, I think, that makes curses on you have 50% increased effect.
TLDR, just hire Karv already.
No, TLDR, nothing really changed.
And nothing's changed. The amount of people who've asked me, Tarke, why are you recommending a cultist? They nerf temp chains is like driving me insane. But anyway, is there anything from the developer manifesto or like unique discussion people want to talk about before we start like predicting some like meta stuff, or maybe talk about some starters with the information we have so far?
I think it's pretty well covered.
Yeah. Go on.
Okay
The
then.
one thing that worries me a little bit is actually not calling back to the manifesto, but rather to new skills. Arctic Breath, I really hope that shield ground they demonstrate in the video is not like with a lot of AoE scaling. It doesn't look like it's going to have very good coverage, and I'm a bit worried about it. But that's much further back as an aside.
I mean, that's fair though. Like that directly affects me because I'm thinking about deciding some weird cold snap tricks thing, and the fact that they made it so cold snap and vortex and Arctic Breath stack. I would probably have to tell you quite quickly whether or not the Arctic Breath feels terrible. But yeah.
Okay, Target, just before we go on here, I have some information to share that currently Rise is actually playing Dota 2.
Okay.
Just wanted to know. Now he is.
Okay, cool. Okay,
Just wanted to let you know.
so I want everyone to give... We'll go again for the two Big Dipper builds, but I'm already excluding BV. You can't mention BV. 2 Big Dipper builds, and 1 build you think everyone's going to play and it's going to flop. I think the flop build is going to be the guy doing dual Cosprey, cast on crit, triple cold dot beams. And I know there's a guy planning that shit right now, because it's such an obvious thing to plan.
The dot is obvious. I don't know. That seems terrible.
Exactly, that's why I think it's going to be shit, but there's someone planning it.
I mean, that's one guy. You said wasn't it like that everyone's gonna... You said everyone's gonna play him. You like mentioned one guy.
To be fair, there were like 3 people in chat saying I was going to play that. The other thing that I think, the people doing like stupid Winter Orb cast while channeling setups, that I think is bad. I think Winter Orb self-cast is good. I also think Winter Orb totems might actually be legit.
Yes.
I think that's actually going to be a sexy build.
I think that'll have quite good single target. I worry a bit about its ability to clear, because you're like placing a totem and then it starts channeling and then damage happens.
What I'm really hoping... So, one of my favorite things with...
True.
Yeah. One of my favorite things with Hyro that not enough people do, in my opinion, is not actually get Ancestral Bond on the tree. So you can self-cast to map clear and then use totems for boss damage. Alia played the really cool BV totem build where you use BV to clear and then the BV totems use your BV stacks. So if you're on 10 stacks, you drop a totem, it's already on 10. I think you could do a build like that with Winter Orb. So you get like, what is it? 5? Is it 5 or 6 totems now without Ancestral Bond? Say 5, fuck it. You get 5 totems. So you do just normal Winter Orb to clear the entire map. And then for single target, you drop 5. And then delete. It'd be sick.
You probably wouldn't want to end up using multiple totems in that build, though, because you're eating the damage penalty from multiple totems when you're self-casting, and you're not getting the benefit of having the extra totems out. Or maybe it's as a gem swap for something. I don't know.
What
I'm
damage?
gonna say one big deeps build now.
Go on.
Since you guys are thinking
What is it?
It's gonna be Occultist, Toxic Rain, Dot, because you get the Chaos damage multiplier, and then you slap in 3 Toxic Rain totems with the Withering attack or whatever, because you're stacking more damages, and then you stack the Wither. And of course you go CI. Obviously.
Yeah.
Wait, what is the multiplier of the dot?
It's literally just a more multiplier
it's just like
to your damage over time. It's literally just like a more multiplier. Skill 3
and Occultist.
occultist, and then I think they said it might be on items.
Yeah,
I'm not
so
sure about that.
they're basically
They said 3 things.
yeah. They haven't told us what it is yet. They've just said they're going to be putting a fat multiplier on occultist.
Yeah, it's literally just a multiplier, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was like it's a cold damage, cold damage time over multiplier, and then non-ailment chaos damage over multiplier.
Yeah.
Multiplier.
And that the thing
so
which is
new
really
item modifiers on the passive tree and on the occultist. Ah, okay.
the thing which was really funny about that is when I read that on stream, people were like, "Oh, Tarke, Essence Drain." I'm like, dude, Toxic Rain is so much better than Essence Drain. Like, Essence Drain might become good again, but like, Toxic Rain is already like a tier 1 build and like an insane league starter, and it's just gained damage, and it's probably not going to get nerfed. So
then Quillvane might be nerfed.
Do you think they'd ever nerf Glory? Or they might make it
For
rare.
damage over time. They might actually add something for that. Because if
Yeah.
they're buffing this again, right, for exactly this reason, Quillvane
I can
might
actually,
be it.
I can actually see that
It's too strong for
skills
a low level.
used with skills used with Quillrain have like less damage over time.
Just like how, because it's what 50% less attack damage, so there is 50% less dot damage or something. That could work.
Attack and dot damage. Yeah, it might actually go there.
Oh, that's
Maybe
I
not dot
like
damage,
that.
but I don't know. Something. I mean, if they buff Toxic Rain even more, and Quillvane is already like, I went out of my way to create the +3, right? And
So
it's
hard,
for
yeah.
clearing. It's just not as good as Quillvane. It's only good enough if you're doing like Elder and Guardian stuff. That's the only time you need it. For everything else, Quillvane does everything for you.
I really like that suggestion, and I could see them doing that.
Second build I think is gonna kick off is gonna be War Chief
Yes.
totem builds with the extra totems.
Yeah.
Fucking
You can you can get so much damage from like the lore weave is like crazy flat damage, for example. And I'm assuming
Purity.
based on looking at them having a cruel, Herald of Purity, we have cruel craft on both. I'm assuming we're gonna get better flat fish craft on jewelry and everything like that too. I think that's gonna pop off. Just I mean the two totem the extra 2 totems alone is gonna be crazy, I think.
The one thing to consider with all these potential totem build ideas, though, is that they're not super friendly to deep delves, where the totems don't have enough
True.
survivability to really like handle depth 500-600 mon.
These are going to be like great. Like totem builds are going to be great league starters and great for doing masters. I think.
Yeah,
In general, totems does that really well.
They can
It's like
scale up to
league
all tiers
specific.
of map content as
Yeah.
well. It's really just delve that offers content that's scary enough that your totems get one hit by like blue mobs.
And for the build that you said you think is gonna flop, I think people are thinking people want to play the good old cast on crit discharge again, right? I think that's not going to be as strong as other cast on crit builds like Arc, for example, because discharge has the crazy less multiplier if you trigger it, right?
Yeah.
I think this people are going to try with discharge. Then like, well, fuck, I pretty much have to use walls protection now. God damn it, that just is basically complete dog shit with the other options, and then they're just gonna go with Arc or Graceful Cascade or something.
And
Also, the AoE is way worse now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are also maybe going to be a bit disappointed by trying to league start cast on crit without the option for like getting a Vagan dagger in the first. Then we'll see whether or not Vagan daggers are available through syndicates.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah. We just don't know.
I
I
think
think crafting options will come down to whether or not we can start early.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can. I remember back in the day. I don't know if it's going to be strong enough, but I mean, cast on crit getting a 3 times damage buff, you could probably make it work quite early with just a wand that you craft yourself. I remember doing that all the time. On cast on crit.
I think a build which is obviously going to be insane, so I'm not going to count it towards my 2, is obviously just going to be Herald of Agony has just been buffed. I don't think they're going to nerf it. I think it's too niche in an ability to nerf. I explained this before. GGG generally lets minions go just untouched because of how clunky minions are. And it doesn't matter how broken minions are. I don't think they'll ever become the most popular build, like, for example, a Flame Blast Totem, just because people don't like using them. So it's just been buffed by banners. And from that, I think any kind of, like, Fizz-based Spectre, potentially Vanguard, if you can use the multi-totem, is just going to be, like, fucking insane.
Did we just ignore that the lightning spider from before Malachi, just got like destroyed during the first patch, pretty much, as a Spectre, because it was too good against like players. So they just, because of that, it also got like destroyed as a Spectre, pretty much. But other than that, yeah, I agree that they usually let them slip.
I could see them nerfing Herald of Agony a little bit. What I would like to see if they would nerf like level 20, but keep like 25 equally powerful. Just having like just a level 20 spike.
Requires more investment.
Yeah.
To get into a really OP version of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just stupid though.
It's just too powerful. I feel like it's too powerful. For when you hit 20.
It's just dumb. My friend Kane, who hadn't played this league at all, he was like, "Oh, I want to play a build, and I just want to get like deep delve." And I'm like, "Dude, just play Herald of Agony." He's like, "I don't know if it'll do damage." I was like, "No, it'll be fine." He's like, I don't know. And his current setup is he's being a bit cute with it. He's playing a champion, so he's getting that like guaranteed more damage and hits, and he's doing Quill Rain to poison, which is kind of cool. He's literally just got it in a Falling helmet, no plus levels, no nothing, no empowers because he's doing private league stuff, and he's cleared everything. And it's just like, huh. Yeah, you're right. It kind of does damage. It's pretty good.
Really cool option for Herald of Agony is trying to Essence Insanity craft helmets because you can get 50% physical damage gain. I actually have a bone helmet that I never got around to using, but a bone helmet that's now sitting rotting in standard with +3 minion gems, 50% fizz gained as extra, life and 2 res rolls.
Oh, you have that? Wow.
Or life and 1 res roll. Like it's usable with life and res, and then also insanity +3 minion gems.
Small update
that's crazy.
from chat. Sorry, apparently Kane killed Uber Eld yesterday. So yeah, he just killed it with a Falling.
Seems to work.
Yeah, and that's in a private league, so like a hybrid SSF kind of environment. So this isn't like broken gear. Yeah, it's slightly good. It's slightly good.
I think they could hit that, even if it's not seeing that much play. They don't generally like things that trivialize content too much.
No.
For a build that I think is still going to be quite strong, and this is pretty damn obvious, unless there's some significant changes to it in the patch notes, Molten Strike is like probably one of the go-to melee skills now. Because it's one of the only ones that gets away from the stat stick changes without too much damage. Also, Spectral Shield Throw can still be stat stick.
Fuck off. I was waiting for you to mention it earlier, and I was like, he hasn't said it. Oh, he's not going there. Okay.
And shield crafting now is way better than it was before. Like, seriously, you can get good DPS out of it, but the projectile is still the size of a fucking ant.
Tell me when he stops talking about shield throw. I'm done.
No, I agree with you. It's bad, but it could be good.
For a second there, I thought that you were, when you said shield crafting for damage, you were talking shield for damage for, like, other than the spectral shield throw builds. I was like, I looked at the stuff yesterday, and like, yeah, we have like 33% increased physical damage in there, and some flat fish.
No, nothing actually useful. I'm sorry, just shield throw garbage.
Yeah.
A skill that I think, with a little bit more help, it's not currently in a state where it's really amazing, but with a little bit more help, it could be quite good, is actually Summon Holy Relic. I played a Summon Holy Relic this build towards the end of the league, expecting it to be Mimi trash, and it ended up scaling to the point where it actually felt really nice to play. The Holy Relics were doing like 150,000 to 200,000 damage in a hit with their like physical Nova, because the base damage is just ridiculously high. The issues is that you can only summon 2, one base and one with the unique helmet, and they have a cooldown. And you have to hit with an attack in order to proc them. So it's got a bunch of limitations, but if any of those become easier to work around, like if the cooldown becomes buffed and, you know, just they proc more often, or if you can summon a third from another source, then I think Summon Holy Relic becomes legit. Like, it just needs a little bit more. It just needs like one more push.
Before you give yours, Nugi, also another thing, chat, just buy fucking Soul Rest if you're in Trade League. That's such a good starter build. Fucking Soul Rest is
People
legit.
asking me just today, is Soul Rest gonna be good?
Yeah.
Can I get? Is it possible to buy it at all? I think it will be.
It drops at a really low level. It's like 68 or something. So people
I found
one
early on, but it's gonna be fine.
I found one very early in the Camel's race and was like, fuck. I'm playing Hierophant, no.
For the people saying low level 68 question mark, it's the fact that you can get it before you start properly progressing into maps. Like, I think I got one in like Act 10 or some shit. Like, when you can get a weapon that powerful before maps, if you're playing in Trade League, people will get it day one, is basically what I'm saying. Apparently it's 62, but yeah. Anyway, sorry, continue.
To be fair, though, talking about specific uniques, I don't think Soul Rest will be hit by this, but the Balance Manifesto does point to them rebalancing rarities of a lot of uniques.
That is true. So that could completely change. Yeah, that's fair.
I think Poet Spin is going to be extremely rare.
Possibly Impulses. Maybe it doesn't get a numbers nerf. Maybe it just becomes like T1 rarity.
Yeah, exactly. The big question is, will they make Mjolnir as good as it is rare, or will they just make more common?
I mean, Mjolnir is actually playable at the moment, to be fair.
Cast on crit
I hope
buffs
they're gonna
too.
buff it.
I think they'll buff it, but it's
gonna-
I mean,
playable.
they probably buff the cooldown because it's like 250 milliseconds now, right? And in the manifesto they mentioned about the cooldown, so they're probably gonna be changing uniques too for that. So I would assume that's gonna be like 150 or 200, I think.
That'd be nice.
Go and give us your builds.
I think Lancing Steel is gonna be good. No, I think it's gonna be melee, and it's gonna be we can't stand still. It's like, oh my god, Lancing Steel's great.
How would you build it?
I don't know.
Fuck's sake.
Just a hunch. I'm saying, man. There's gonna be some good melee build out there. It's gonna happen.
That was going to be my build. That was going to be my build that I think will flop. But yeah.
The Landing Steel. I mean, it's all gonna come down to if there's not damage. Like, what are the numbers gonna look like?
Maybe it'll be the Scourge Arrow of this, which, by the way,
I think
I think Scourge Arrow will still be
for
very
a boss
good.
killer. I'm just saying, it could be a crazy boss killer.
I think Scourge Arrow will still be very good. I don't think it'll be nerfed, personally.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, it's not like crazy offensive in terms of how much damage it scales, even though it is very good, and it's also not been around for very long.
Do you think Ellie Hit will stay the same? Because Ellie Hit's kind of, people seem alright with it now.
I honestly hope it gets some changes to make it more interesting. I still find the skill kind of dull, personally, but I don't think numbers-wise it's problematic.
I don't think we're gonna see any changes to it working mechanically. They just did an overhaul on it, right?
Yeah.
So
no, that's very wishful thinking.
Damage-wise, they
on
could
my part.
nerf it, but like 5-10%. I could see that happening.
Okay, well, in that case...
I feel like Landing Steel, I feel like it goes in the same category for the things that's gonna flop.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's going to be shit.
Right?
It's like a 50-50.
It's going to do one of two things.
Or it's complete dog shit.
They're either going to do Scourge Arrow treatment, where it just is like insane fucking damage, or it's just going to be like dumpster. But before we wrap it up, then, is there anything else anyone would like to discuss?
The new sword that is like double damage. Don't sleep on it.
That is, it's basically just a better Frost Breath, and Frost Breath.
It's also it's a lot more reliable now that stat sticking is gone. You can just get 2 of those.
Yeah,
and you have 2 good weapons.
It has a suffix and a prefix Weltmod too. I think they confirmed it in one of the AP threads, where if it's like wide, then it's suffix, I think. Or the other way around.
Yeah,
but
if
basically
it's
you can tell
wide,
if it's a suffix
prefix. If it's thin, it's suffix.
Yeah, you can tell if it's a suffix or a prefix based on the, how long the is, and
Also,
it had both. So I think I don't think it's like a hybrid mod, but it's a prefix and a suffix.
The new Onslaught Flask, Cinder Swallow Urn,
that's
which
so good.
has really cool name and art, but you don't need to consume ignited corpses for it to be good at all.
Yeah.
Like, you can just play some sort of Pathfinder build or other flask scaling build to get your charges back, and then it's just 10% more damage and a ton of recovery so long as you can ignite. And igniting is way easier to do than the other elements because you don't have to hit a threshold. You just do any fire damage and crit.
That flask is so good, and people are gonna sleep on it because I reviewed it on stream. So many people in chat were like, it doesn't seem that good. And it's like, it's Trickster.
It has a veiled mod still that they don't know.
Yeah, and it has the veiled mod, so it's even better.
Any crit build can just use this.
Or any elementalist. Any elementalist, any crit build.
Speaking of veiled mods, what kind of veiled shit are we gonna have on flasks? Are we just gonna have like static, curse immunity, charges, or
I think they're going to do
I-
stuff
I-
like
gonna
that.
get some great?
That I think it's gonna be pretty more interesting than just that.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yes, me too.
It might have a few unique affixes that can, only happen on that one unique as well. So you have like 6 things to choose from. Don't you get 3 offered to you when you unveil
Yeah,
a mod as well?
Always 3. Yeah.
So you have a lot more. If there's a very small pool attached to it, like there might be for flasks, you have a lot of consistency there.
Yeah. One thing that we
Which
haven't
is
actually
nice.
talked about at all, which is another thing I think might be slept on, I think focus might actually be good. Because I don't...
I think so too.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
So for
You
anyone
just
who
stack
missed
a lot of-
focus, basically it's like a veiled mod that you can get where you gain a button, it's called focus, you press it, and it activates all of the focus mods on all of your gear. When it first came out, people looked at it and said, this looks shit. But they were thinking about it with only having one piece. So if you had focus on every single gear slot, you press one button and you gain crazy fucking buffs. It's like if you stacked like 10 Val skills in one click.
I think one of the more interesting ones as well is the helmet one.
The socket
where you
every
get-
gem one.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you can turn instant skills or cast skills into instant skills.
Speaking of that, I wonder. Fuck, I lost it. What were you talking about, Tarke? Just before how the Nugi said something. I lost it when Nugi started talking.
Focus.
Yeah,
getting a ton
focus.
of buffs.
Focus. Yeah. It doesn't say it has a base duration on the reveal, right?
You're
It's
trying to
just like a
tempt
fixed
chain to
duration.
cheese it, yeah.
It has a fixed duration. The question is, does it mean it works like recently, which is in 4 seconds, and then the elemental overload is the exact same mechanic, but instead of 4 seconds, it's 8 seconds. So those are not affected by the temp chains. So now the question is this just a fixed duration that can be slowed through temp chains, or is it like the recent thing?
So basically, the difference would be when
You can
hit
chain
focus.
it.
Yeah, when you hit focus, you get a buff. You are currently focused, and that buff can then be extended by temp chains. Or is it if you've activated your focus in the past 4 seconds, get these buffs, which means you don't actually have a buff. It's just I pressed my focus button within the last 4 seconds.
Oh. Slight.
No.
I think Discord froze for everyone. So, they've all frozen. I probably haven't frozen, so that might be the internet on my end. So,
I can ask you.
this is full robot. This is full robot. On that note, I would like to say that Discord has lost focus. I think focus is a very good new addition to the game. I'd like to thank everyone for coming on, and we're going to end in a traditional film freeze frame for them cool effects.